Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I've been wanting to do this ever since I finished Black Myth Wukong. What an incredible game. So today we're going to see, what if Naruto was the reincarnation of the Monkey King's son Wukong in High School DxD? In this story, Naruto Uzumaki is not just a shinobi, but the reincarnation of the legendary Monkey King, Son Wukong. Wielding the mythical Rui Jingu Bang, cloud-riding abilities, and the immense strength of a god. Thrust into the supernatural chaos of High School DxD, Naruto must navigate the world of devils, angels, and fallen angels at Kuo Academy. With Son Wukong's powers and his own unbreakable will, Naruto's presence shakes the foundations of the DxD universe. On 200 likes Part 2 will be uploaded. Now let's start the story. Chapter 1. A New Beginning. The skies above the celestial mountains were ablaze with fiery light, the heavens themselves trembling under the weight of the battle raging within. Thunder rumbled, and the earth cracked as two mighty forces clashed, shaking the very foundation of the cosmos. This was no ordinary conflict. It was a war between gods, immortals, and a being who defied them all, Son Wukong, the Monkey King. Wukong stood tall amidst the chaos, his golden hair gleaming under the harsh light of the storm. His body was adorned with battle scars, each one a testament to the countless wars he had fought, each one a reminder of the enemies he had vanquished. In his hand, he wielded the Rui Jingu Bang, his enchanted staff, which could stretch across the heavens or shrink to the size of a needle. Today, it was a weapon of unyielding fury, and with it, he had brought the celestial army to its knees. Around him lay the bodies of his fallen comrades and his fellow demon warriors who had fought valiantly against the oppressive rule of the heavens. Their blood stained the sacred ground, their spirits lingering in the air, crying out for vengeance. Wukong's heart burned with rage, a fire so intense it could set the sky ablaze. He was the great sage, equal to heaven, and he would not let their deaths go unpunished. "You bastards!" Wukong roared, his voice echoing across the battlefield, reverberating through the very fabric of reality. His eyes, like burning coals, scanned the horizon, searching for the one responsible for this massacre. "How dare you kill my kind? How dare you betray me?" A deafening silence followed his words, the only sound being the crackling of energy as his staff struck the ground, sending shockwaves rippling outward. The celestial army, once vast and imposing, now hesitated, their courage waning in the face of the enraged Monkey King. They had seen what he was capable of, and they knew they were no match for his fury. But Wukong's gaze was fixed on one figure in particular, a tall, imposing man clad in golden armor, his face concealed behind a mask of steel. This was Erlang Shun, the three-eyed warrior deity, a general of the celestial army and one of the most powerful beings in the heavens. He stood before Wukong, his divine trident gleaming in the dim light, his third eye glowing with a malevolent energy. "It's over, Wukong," Erlang Shin declared, his voice cold and unyielding. "Surrender now, and I will ensure you are treated fairly. But continue this madness, and you will bring about your own destruction." Wukong's eyes narrowed, his grip on the Rui Jingu Bang tightening. "Fairly? You speak of fairness while standing atop the corpses of my kin? You dare to offer me mercy after slaughtering those who stood by me? You have no right to speak of justice." With a roar that shook the heavens, Wukong lunged at Erlang Shin, his staff swinging with the force of 1,000 storms. The two warriors clashed, their weapons meeting with a resounding crash that sent sparks flying through the air. The ground beneath them splintered and cracked under the sheer force of their blows, as if the earth itself could not bear the weight of their battle. Erlang Shun fought with the precision of a seasoned warrior, his movements calculated and deadly. He parried Wukong's strikes with ease, countering with swift, brutal attacks that would have felled any lesser being. But Wukong was no ordinary opponent. He was the Monkey King, a being of raw, untamed power, and he matched Erlang Shin blow for blow, his speed and agility unmatched. The battle raged on, each strike from Wukong's staff resonating with the fury of a being who had been wronged one too many times. He fought with the desperation of someone who had nothing left to lose, his anger fueling his every move. But no matter how many times he struck, Erlang Shun remained steadfast, his resolve unshaken. "Why do you resist, Wukong?" Erlang Shun demanded as their weapons locked once more, the air crackling with energy around them. "You cannot win this battle. The heavens have decreed your fate." "I make my own fate," Wukong spat, pushing back with all his might. "I will not bow to your false gods or their twisted sense of justice. I will tear down your heavens brick by brick if I have to." But even as he spoke, Wukong could feel a shift in the air, a dark presence looming just beyond his perception. Something was wrong, something that went beyond the battle itself. His instincts, honed through centuries of warfare, screamed at him to be wary, but his rage clouded his judgment. And then it happened. A sudden flash of light, brighter than the sun, engulfed the battlefield. Wukong barely had time to react before he was struck by a force unlike anything he had ever felt before. It was as if the heavens themselves had unleashed their full wrath upon him, a surge of energy so powerful that it tore through his defenses and sent him crashing to the ground. Dazed and disoriented, Wukong struggled to rise, his vision blurred, his limbs heavy. He could barely make out the figures approaching him. Celestial beings, their forms shimmering with divine light, surrounding him on all sides. He recognized their faces, their voices. These were the same beings who had once called him brother, who had fought alongside him in countless battles. Why? Wukong gasped, his voice weak as he tried to comprehend the betrayal. Why would you do this? One of the celestial beings, a figure draped in flowing robes, stepped forward. You have defied the heavens for the last time, Wukong. You are too powerful, too dangerous to be left unchecked. We cannot allow you to continue your rampage. Wukong's eyes widened as the realization dawned on him. This wasn't just a battle, this was a trap, a carefully orchestrated plan to bring about his downfall. His own comrades, the very beings he had trusted, had conspired against him, luring him into this final confrontation with the intent of sealing his fate. You bastards! Wukong growled, his fury reignited by the sheer audacity of their betrayal. He tried to rise, to fight back, but the energy that had struck him was sapping his strength, draining him of his power. Erlang Shan stepped forward, his trident glowing with a sinister light. It's over, Wukong. You have brought this upon yourself. With a swift, decisive motion, Erlang Shan thrust his trident into the ground, and the earth beneath Wukong began to crack and split open. Dark tendrils of energy surged from the ground, wrapping around Wukong's body, binding him in place. He struggled against the bonds, but they only tightened, pulling him deeper into the earth. No! Wukong roared, thrashing against the dark energy that sought to consume him. I will not be sealed away like some common beast. I am the great sage, equal to heaven. I am the Monkey King. But his cries fell on deaf ears as the dark energy continued to envelop him, dragging him deeper and deeper into the earth. The last thing he saw before the darkness consumed him completely was the cold, unfeeling gaze of Erlang Shen, watching as he was sealed away, his power stripped from him, his memories scattered across time and space. And then, there was nothing. The sound of birds chirping filled the air as the morning sun rose over the quiet town of Kuo, casting a warm, golden light over the streets. The peaceful scene was a far cry from the chaos and violence of the Celestial Mountains, a world away from the war that had raged there centuries ago. In a small apartment on the edge of town, a young man stirred in his bed, the light of the morning sun filtering through the curtains and gently waking him from his slumber. He blinked his blue eyes open, staring at the ceiling for a moment as the remnants of a strange dream faded from his mind. Naruto Uzumaki yawned and stretched, shaking off the lingering unease that clung to him from the dream. It had been the same one again, a dream of a battle, of a golden staff, of a voice screaming in rage and defiance. But as always, the details slipped away as soon as he tried to grasp them, leaving him with only a vague sense of familiarity and a deep, unshakable sadness. Just a dream, Naruto muttered to himself as he rolled out of bed, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Nothing to worry about. He shook his head and forced a smile, determined not to let the strange dream ruin his day. Today was just like any other day. He had school, friends to hang out with, and maybe, if he was lucky, he'd get to eat his favorite ramen for lunch. As he went through his morning routine, the dream continued to nag at the back of his mind, but Naruto pushed it aside. He had no time for weird dreams. He had to get to Kuo Academy and meet up with his friends. With that thought in mind, Naruto finished getting ready and headed out the door, a bright smile on his face as he stepped into the warm morning sun. Today was going to be a good day, and nothing was going to change that. As the morning sun bathed Kuo Academy in a warm, golden glow as students made their way through the gates, chatting and laughing, energized by the new day. Among the crowd was Naruto, who practically radiated enthusiasm. With his blonde hair spiked in all directions and a wide grin plastered on his face, Naruto was a beacon of positivity that brightened the mood of everyone around him. Good morning, everyone, Naruto called out, waving to his classmates as he walked through the schoolyard. His voice was as loud and cheerful as ever, drawing attention from all sides. Morning, Naruto, several students responded, some with friendly waves, others with amused smiles. It was impossible to ignore the infectious energy he brought to the school. Naruto was in his second year at Kuo Academy, a prestigious private school known for its elite student body and hidden mysteries, though Naruto was blissfully unaware of the latter. To him, It was just another day of classes, hanging out with friends, and indulging in his love of ramen. He thrived in this environment, always eager to make new friends and help others, his kind nature endearing him to almost everyone he met. As he made his way toward Class 2B, Naruto's mind wandered to his plans for the day. He had an intense martial arts training session scheduled after school, and he couldn't wait to dive into it. He might not have been the best student academically, but when it came to martial arts, he was a natural fact that both puzzled and intrigued his sensei. "Why, Naruto?" a familiar voice called out from behind. Naruto turned around to see Issei Hyudu, his best friend and constant companion, jogging to catch up with him. Issei, with his brown hair and slightly disheveled appearance, was grinning ear to ear, though there was an unmistakable glint of mischief in his eyes. "Issei, you're running late again." "Huh?" Naruto laughed, playfully punching his friend's shoulder. Yeah, but I've got more important things on my mind," Issei replied with a wink, which could only mean one thing: girls. Issei's reputation as a pervert was well known, but despite his antics, Naruto knew that deep down, Issei was a good person with a big heart. "Don't tell me you were daydreaming about the girls in class again," Naruto teased as they walked side by side toward their classroom. "Hey, a guy can dream, can't he?" Issei shot back, not even bothering to deny it. "But seriously, I've got a good feeling about today. Maybe I'll finally score a date." Naruto laughed. "Well, good luck with that. Just don't get into too much trouble, okay? I'm not bailing you out again." The two friends bantered back and forth as they entered the school building, their laughter echoing down the halls. For Naruto, this was just another typical day, but something about the morning felt different. A slight unease gnawed at him, though he couldn't quite place it. By the time they reached Class 2B, most of the students were already settled in, chatting amongst themselves, or hurriedly finishing up homework. The classroom buzzed with the usual morning energy, with sunlight streaming through the windows, casting a warm glow over the desks. Naruto took his seat near the middle of the room, surrounded by a small group of friends who always seemed to gravitate toward him. Issei plopped down in the desk next to him, still grinning like a fool. "Hey, Naruto, did you see the new transfer student?" asked a girl with short brown hair sitting in front of them. Her name was Aika Kiryu, a fellow classmate, and one of the few girls who could tolerate Issei's constant perverted comments without batting an eye. "Transfer student?" Naruto tilted his head, curious. "No, I didn't. Who is it?" "Some girl from overseas," Aika explained. "She's really pretty too. I heard she's already got a fan club." "Great, another girl Issei's going to drool over," Naruto joked, giving Issei a sidelong glance. "Hey, I can't help it if I appreciate beauty," Issei retorted, though his eyes lit up at the mention of a new pretty girl. The conversation shifted to the usual classroom chatter: homework, upcoming tests, weekend plans, but Naruto's mind drifted. For some reason, he couldn't shake the feeling that today was going to be different, though he didn't know why. As the morning classes began, Naruto found it increasingly hard to focus. His thoughts kept returning to the strange dreams he'd been having lately. In them, he wasn't just Naruto Uzumaki, the cheerful high school student. He was someone else, someone powerful and ancient, wielding a golden staff and fighting battles that seemed straight out of mythology. The dreams were so vivid, so real, that he sometimes woke up feeling like he was missing something important. He shook his head, trying to dispel the lingering unease. "It's just a dream," he muttered under his breath. "Nothing to worry about." But as he glanced out the window, the feeling of déjà vu struck him again, stronger this time. It was as if he'd been here before, seen these people, lived this life, and yet, something was different, out of place. By the time lunch rolled around, Naruto's mood had improved considerably. The strange feeling from earlier had faded, and now all he could think about was food, specifically ramen. He grabbed his lunch and headed outside with Issei, eager to enjoy the warm weather. The two of them found their usual spot under a large cherry blossom tree, where they often ate lunch together. As they sat down, Naruto noticed a group of girls passing by, giggling and whispering to each other. One of them shot a glance in Issei's direction and quickly turned away, blushing. "Looks like you've got an admirer, Issei," Naruto teased, nudging his friend. Really? Which one?" Issei asked, perking up immediately and scanning the group with eager eyes. Naruto laughed, shaking his head. "You're hopeless, man." They dug into their lunches, the conversation flowing easily between them. Naruto listened with half an ear as Issei rambled on about his latest crush, but his mind kept drifting to the occult research club. The club had always intrigued him, though he'd never been brave enough to check it out himself. He knew Rias Gremory, the club's president, was popular and well-respected, but there was something about the club that felt off. "You ever think about joining a club?" Naruto asked suddenly, interrupting Issei's monologue. "Huh? A club?" Issei blinked, taken aback by the question. Not really. Why, are you thinking of joining one? Naruto shrugged. I dunno. I've been curious about the occult research club. It seems interesting, you know? Issei gave him a skeptical look. The occult research club? Isn't that for weirdos? I don't think so, Naruto replied, thoughtfully chewing on a piece of ramen. Rias Gremory is the president, and she's definitely not a weirdo. Plus, I've heard they do some cool stuff, like investigating supernatural phenomena. Issei chuckled. Supernatural? Come on, Naruto. You don't actually believe in that stuff, do you? Naruto grinned sheepishly. Well, it's not like I've seen anything supernatural, but I dunno. It could be fun to find out. You're such a dreamer, Issei said, though there was no malice in his tone. But hey, if you're interested, why not check it out? Who knows, maybe you'll discover something cool. The rest of the school day passed without incident, though Naruto couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation building inside him. He was looking forward to his martial arts training. It was the one place where he could clear his mind and focus entirely on the present. After school, Naruto headed straight to the dojo, a small but well-maintained building located a short walk from the academy. The scent of tatami mats and the faint echo of training sessions greeted him as he entered, filling him with a sense of calm and familiarity. Ah, Naruto, you're here, greeted the dojo master, an elderly man with a weathered face and sharp, discerning eyes. His name was Master Hoshino, and he had been Naruto's instructor for as long as he could remember. Ready for today's session, Master? Naruto replied with his trademark grin, already bouncing on his feet with excitement. Master Hoshino chuckled. Always eager, aren't you? Come, let's begin. They started with the usual warm-ups, moving on to sparring exercises soon after. Naruto loved the feeling of pushing his body to its limits, testing his reflexes, and honing his skills. But today, something felt different. His movements were sharper, faster, more fluid than ever before. It was as if his body remembered techniques he hadn't consciously learned. Excellent, Naruto! Master Hoshino exclaimed as Naruto executed a perfect spinning kick. You're improving rapidly. It's almost as if you've done this before in another life. Naruto paused, catching his breath. Heh, maybe I have, he joked, though the words lingered in his mind longer than they should have. After an intense hour of training, Naruto sat down on the edge of the mat, wiping the sweat from his brow. Master Hoshino joined him, handing him a bottle of water. You've always had a natural talent for martial arts, Naruto, the master said, his tone thoughtful. But lately, you've been tapping into something deeper, something ancient. Do you feel it? Naruto frowned, taking a sip of water. I don't know. Sometimes it feels like my body moves on its own, like I'm not the one in control. It's weird, but it feels right, you know? Master Hoshino nodded slowly. It's as if you're remembering something from a long time ago. You should trust your instincts, Naruto. They may lead you to discover who you truly are. Naruto looked at his master, surprised by the serious tone in his voice. You think I'm something special? I know you are, Master Hoshino replied with a small smile. But what that means is for you to discover. The words echoed in Naruto's mind as he left the dojo that evening, the sun setting in the distance. He felt a strange mix of emotions: excitement, curiosity, and a hint of fear. What was his master hinting at? And why did those dreams feel so real? As Naruto made his way home, his thoughts were still swirling with questions. The streets were quiet, the soft glow of streetlights casting long shadows on the pavement. Naruto loved this time of day, peaceful, calm, with just the right amount of solitude. But tonight, something felt different. The air was heavy, almost electric, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Naruto slowed his pace, senses on high alert, though he couldn't pinpoint why. Just then, he spotted a familiar figure up ahead. It was Issei, standing by a vending machine, his back to Naruto. He seemed tense, his shoulders stiff, and Naruto frowned, wondering what could be bothering his friend. Hey, Issei! Naruto called out, jogging over. What are you doing out here? Issei turned around, startled. And Naruto? What are you doing here? I was heading home from the dojo, Naruto explained, noticing the nervous look on Issei's face. What about you? You seem off. Issei scratched the back of his head, trying to play it cool. Oh, nothing. Just, thinking. Naruto raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. Is this about that girl who asked you out today? You don't usually get this nervous about dates. Issei's eyes widened in surprise. How did you? I'm not blind, Naruto chuckled. But seriously, what's up? You're acting weird. Issei hesitated, then sighed. It's just, I have this really bad feeling about it. Like something's gonna go wrong, but I don't know what. Naruto's own unease from earlier came rushing back, but he forced a smile. Come on, Issei. It's probably just nerves. I'm sure everything will be fine. Issei didn't look convinced, but he nodded anyway. Yeah, maybe you're right. I guess I'm just overthinking it. They walked together for a while, the silence between them oddly comforting. But deep down, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen, something that would change their lives forever. And as the night grew darker, the first threads of fate began to weave their intricate web around them. The next day, as the sun rose over Kuo Academy, casting long shadows across the well-managed lawns and elegant buildings, the day had just begun, and students were already filling the hallways, heading to their classes and catching up with friends. The peaceful atmosphere of the school belied the hidden world of devils, angels, and fallen angels that lingered just beneath the surface. Inside one of the quieter rooms of the academy, the air was filled with a different kind of tension, a strategic one. The room was tastefully decorated, with bookshelves lining the walls and a large, ornate desk dominating the center. The focal point of the room, however, was the chessboard situated on a small table between two luxurious armchairs. Rias Gremory, the crimson-haired president of the Occult Research Club and one of the most powerful devils in the underworld, was seated on one side of the board, her deep blue eyes focused intently on the game before her. Across from her sat Sona Citri, a fellow devil, and the student council president, known for her sharp intellect and keen strategic mind. Both young women were poised, their faces calm as they contemplated their next moves, but the air between them crackled with the intensity of their rivalry. I must say, Rias, you've improved, Sona remarked as she moved her knight, capturing one of Rias's pawns with a precise and calculated strike. You're giving me a real challenge today. Rias smiled, though her eyes remained fixed on the board. You're not so bad yourself, Sona, but you know I never play just for fun. Every game is a chance to refine my strategy. Sona's eyes flicked up to meet Rias's, her expression thoughtful. True. And I've noticed that you've been particularly focused lately. Is something on your mind? Rias leaned back in her chair, her fingers idly tracing the edge of a chess piece. I've been keeping an eye on a certain student. Issei Hayudu. Issei Hayudu? Sona repeated, raising an eyebrow. The perverted second year with a reputation for peeping on girls? What could possibly interest you about him? Rias's expression softened slightly, but her gaze remained serious. There's more to him than meets the eye. I can sense something inside him, something powerful, dormant, but ready to awaken. It's faint, but it's there. Sona leaned forward, intrigued. You think he has potential? Definitely, Rias confirmed, her voice steady. I'm planning to make my move soon. I believe he could be a valuable addition to my peerage, but I want to be sure before I act. Sona nodded, considering Rias's words carefully. Interesting. If you're right, he could be quite the asset. But what about his friend? That blonde boy. Naruto Uzumaki, isn't it? He's always with Issei. Have you sensed anything from him? Rias's expression shifted slightly, a hint of puzzlement creeping into her usually confident demeanor. Naruto Uzumaki. He's different. I've observed him a few times, and what's strange is that I can't sense anything from him at all. No aura, no energy, nothing. It's like he's a void. A void? Sona repeated, her curiosity piqued. That's unusual. Even humans with no special abilities have some sort of presence, however faint. But you're saying he has none? Rias nodded, her brows furrowing. Exactly. It's like he's completely ordinary, almost too ordinary. I've never encountered anyone like him before. It's as if he doesn't exist in our world. Sona considered this for a moment, her mind working through the implications. That could mean one of two things. Either he's truly just a normal human, or, Rias finished for her, he's something else entirely. Something hidden, even from us. The room fell silent as both girls contemplated the mystery of Naruto Uzumaki. While Sona's thoughts drifted to the strategic possibilities, Rias found herself more intrigued than ever. What kind of person could exist without leaving even the smallest trace of an aura? And why did Naruto's presence feel so completely and utterly normal? I think I'll keep watching him as well, Rias decided finally, moving one of her pieces on the board. But for now, my focus is on Issei. His power could be a game changer. Sona smiled, a hint of admiration in her eyes. You always did have a knack for finding diamonds in the rough, Rias. I'll be interested to see how this plays out. Their conversation shifted back to the game, the pieces on the board moving with careful deliberation. But even as they played, both Rias and Sona couldn't shake the feeling that something important was on the horizon, something that involved both Issei and Naruto in ways they couldn't yet understand. While Rias and Sona were deep in their chess match, Naruto was oblivious to the quiet deliberations that were taking place. The morning had started just like any other, with Naruto bounding out of bed with his usual enthusiasm and energy, ready to take on the day. After a quick breakfast, Naruto headed to school, meeting up with Issei along the way. The two friends fell into their usual banter as they walked to Kuo Academy, discussing everything from the latest school rumors to what they planned to do after classes. So, Naruto, I've been thinking about that date tomorrow night, Issei said, a hint of nervousness in his voice. You know, the one with Yuma? Naruto grinned, clapping his friend on the back. Finally, huh? Don't worry about it, Issei. Just be yourself, and you'll be fine. Besides, I've got your back if anything goes wrong. Issei chuckled, though he couldn't quite hide his anxiety. Yeah, I know. It's just, something about it feels a little off, you know? But I'm probably just overthinking it. Hey, if it makes you feel better, I'll be nearby, Naruto offered, his tone reassuring. But you've got this. Just relax and enjoy it. As they reached the school gates, Issei nodded, trying to push his worries aside. Thanks, Naruto. I'm really lucky to have a friend like you. Anytime, buddy, Naruto replied with a bright smile. Now let's get to class before we're late. As they walked through the hallways, they were soon joined by two other students, Matsuda and Motohama, Issei's other best friends and fellow members of the so-called perverted trio. Matsuda, the taller of the two, had a mischievous grin plastered on his face, while Motohama, who was shorter and wore glasses, looked equally excited. There's the man of the hour, Matsuda called out, clapping Issei on the back a little harder than necessary. Heard about your big date with that hottie, Yuma. You lucky dog. Motohama adjusted his glasses, which glinted in the morning light. You've got to tell us everything afterward, Issei. We want all the juicy details. Issei chuckled nervously, though he couldn't hide the blush creeping up his cheeks. Yeah, well, I'll let you guys know how it goes. If it goes well, that is. Naruto grinned at the trio, shaking his head in amusement. Issei's friends were always up to something, and while their antics often got them into trouble, there was no denying that they had each other's backs. Even if they were more focused on girls than anything else, Naruto knew that Matsuda and Motohama were good guys at heart. Just don't go overboard, you two, Naruto warned, though his tone was light. Issei's got enough on his mind without you guys making it worse. Hey, we're just giving him some moral support, Matsuda said with a wink. And maybe a few tips on what to say to a girl like Yuma. Motohama nodded sagely. Remember, confidence is key. You've got to make her feel like she's the only girl in the world, Issei. Issei rolled his eyes, but he couldn't help but smile at his friend's enthusiasm. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. As they reached their classroom, Naruto noticed a group of girls nearby whispering and glancing in their direction, clearly amused by the perverted trio's antics. Naruto gave them a friendly wave, which was returned with giggles and smiles. Come on, guys, let's get to class before we end up being late, Naruto urged, leading the way into the classroom. Issei, Matsuda, and Motohama followed, the three of them still discussing Issei's upcoming date in hushed tones. Naruto found himself drifting through the lessons, his mind only half engaged with the material. He was more concerned with keeping an eye on Issei, who seemed increasingly jittery as the day went on. Despite Naruto's reassurances, it was clear that the upcoming date with Yuma was weighing heavily on his friend's mind. Matsuda and Motohama were, of course, no help at all. They spent most of the day whispering not-so-subtle advice to Issei, who alternated between laughing at their ridiculous suggestions and groaning at their lack of tact. Naruto found himself chuckling at their antics, grateful for the distraction they provided. But as the day wore on, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing just beneath the surface. It was a subtle sensation, like a low hum at the edge of his awareness, but it was persistent. He tried to ignore it, telling himself that it was just the usual pre-weekend excitement, but a small part of him remained on edge. When the final bell rang, signaling the end of the school day, Naruto quickly gathered his things and waited for Issei by the door. Matsuda and Motohama had already left, no doubt to continue their scheming elsewhere. You ready to head out? Naruto asked as Issei approached, a faint smile on his face. Issei nodded, though his nervousness was still evident. Yeah, just need to get home and figure out what to wear for tomorrow. You think I should go with something casual, or try to dress up a bit? Naruto considered it for a moment. I'd say keep it casual but neat. You want to look good, but not like you're trying too hard, you know? Right? Casual but neat, Issei repeated, as if committing the advice to memory. Thanks, Naruto. I don't know what I'd do without you. Probably get into a lot more trouble, Naruto joked, earning a laugh from Issei. As they made their way out of the school, Naruto kept the conversation light, talking about everything except the date. He could tell Issei needed the distraction, and he was more than happy to provide it. But as they parted ways at the usual spot, Naruto couldn't help but give his friend one last piece of advice. Just remember, Issei, whatever happens, just be yourself. That's what's going to make this date a success. Issei smiled, the nervousness in his eyes softening just a bit. Thanks, Naruto. I'll try to keep that in mind. With that, they went their separate ways, Issei heading home to prepare for his big night, and Naruto walking the familiar path back to his own apartment. The sun was beginning to set, casting the town in a warm, golden light. It was a beautiful evening, the kind that made everything feel right with the world. The following day at Kuo Academy was abuzz with the usual energy of students, but for Issei Hayudu, the day felt anything but ordinary. His nerves had been on edge since the moment he woke up, and as the hours ticked by, the reality of his upcoming date with Yuma Amano began to settle in with full force. It was his first real date, and despite all the bravado he put on for his friends, Issei couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was about to happen. Naruto picked up on Issei's anxiety the moment they met up before school. Issei's usually carefree demeanor was replaced by a mixture of excitement and trepidation, and while Naruto did his best to keep things light, he knew better than to push Issei too much. So, tonight's the big night, huh? Naruto said with a grin as they walked to school, their footsteps echoing on the sidewalk. Issei nodded, swallowing nervously. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's just a date, right? Nothing to be worried about, right? Naruto laughed, clapping Issei on the back. You'll be fine, Issei. Just remember what we talked about, be yourself, have fun, and don't overthink it. She already said yes, so she's clearly interested in you. Issei managed to smile, though his eyes betrayed his lingering doubt. Yeah, you're right. I just don't want to mess it up, you know? You won't, Naruto reassured him. And if you do, just laugh it off. Confidence, remember? Right, confidence, Issei repeated, trying to bolster his own spirits. Thanks, Naruto. I really appreciate it. The two continued to chat as they made their way to class, joined shortly by Matsuda and Motohama, who, as expected, bombarded Issei with more dating advice, some of it more useful than others. Naruto watched with amusement as Issei tried to fend off their more outrageous suggestions, but he was glad to see that their antics were helping to lighten Issei's mood. By the time lunch rolled around, Issei seemed more at ease, though he still fidgeted with his lunchbox as they sat under the cherry blossom tree. Naruto, always the supportive friend, kept the conversation focused on everyday topics, steering clear of anything that might remind Issei of his nerves. So, Naruto, Matsuda said suddenly, changing the subject, any plans for tonight? Or are you just going to keep an eye on Issei from the shadows? Naruto grinned, shaking his head. I'm not going to stalk him, if that's what you're asking. I've got my own plans, probably just going to relax, maybe hit the dojo for a bit. But I'll be nearby if Issei needs me. Motohama adjusted his glasses, a knowing look in his eyes. You're a good friend, Naruto. But you should take it easy too. Not every night has to be an adventure, you know? Naruto chuckled. Yeah, I know. Tonight's all about Issei. I'll just be hanging out in the background. The day passed quickly after that, and before they knew it, the final bell rang, signaling the end of the school day. Naruto watched as Issei gathered his things, his movements a little more deliberate than usual. You got this, man, Naruto said, giving Issei a thumbs up as they prepared to leave. Just have fun, and remember what we talked about. Issei nodded, a determined look in his eyes. Thanks, Naruto. I'll let you know how it goes. With that, Issei headed out, leaving Naruto behind with Matsuda and Motohama, who were still snickering about their more ridiculous advice. Naruto waved them off, promising to catch up with them later, and made his way out of the school. As he walked home, Naruto couldn't help but feel a strange sense of anticipation. He wasn't sure why, but something about tonight felt significant. Maybe it was just his concern for Issei, but a part of him couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was at play. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the town of Kuo in a warm, dusky glow, Issei stood nervously outside the train station, waiting for Yuma Amano to arrive. He had spent far too long debating what to wear, finally settling on a casual but neat outfit, just as Naruto had advised. Now, all that was left to do was meet his date and hope that everything went smoothly. Come on, Issei, he muttered to himself, trying to calm his racing heart. You've got this. Just be cool. Just as he was beginning to worry that he'd shown up too early, he spotted Yuma walking toward him, her dark hair catching the last rays of sunlight. She looked stunning in a simple but elegant dress, and her smile was warm and inviting as she approached. Hi, Issei. Yuma greeted him cheerfully, her voice sweet and melodic. Sorry if I kept you waiting. Issei felt his heart skip a beat, but he managed to return her smile. No, not at all. You look great. Yuma blushed slightly, her smile widening. Thank you. You look nice too. They exchanged a few more pleasantries before heading toward the nearby park, which was known for its beautiful scenery and quiet, peaceful atmosphere. As they walked, Yuma chatted easily, making Issei feel more at ease with every step. She was kind, attentive, and seemed genuinely interested in what he had to say, a far cry from the girls who usually ignored him at school. For a while, everything seemed perfect. The conversation flowed naturally, and Issei found himself relaxing, his earlier nerves all but forgotten. He even managed to make Yuma laugh a few times, which filled him with a sense of accomplishment. But as the evening wore on and the sun disappeared completely, leaving the park bathed in the soft glow of streetlights, a strange feeling began to creep into Issei's mind. It was subtle at first, like a whisper at the edge of his consciousness, but it grew stronger with each passing minute. Yuma must have noticed his shift in mood because she suddenly stopped and turned to face him, her expression serious. "Issei, can I ask you something?" she said, her voice soft but carrying an undertone of something Issei couldn't quite place. Sure," Issei replied, feeling his heart rate pick up again. "What is it?" Yuma hesitated for a moment, as if searching for the right words. Then, she stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made his breath catch. "Do you believe in the supernatural?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Issei blinked, taken aback by the question. "The supernatural? You mean like ghosts and stuff?" Yuma smiled faintly, but there was a sadness in her eyes that Issei hadn't noticed before. "Yes, but not just ghosts. Angels, devils, fallen angels. Do you believe in any of that?" Issei felt a shiver run down his spine, though he couldn't explain why. I guess I never really thought about it. I mean, it's just stories, right?" Yuma's smile faded completely, replaced by an expression of regret. "I wish it were that simple, Issei. But the truth is, the supernatural is very real." "Issei," Yuma said softly, stepping closer to him, her voice barely above a whisper. "There's one more thing I need to ask you." Issei's nervousness, which had been fading throughout the evening, suddenly returned in full force. "What is it, Yuma? You can ask me anything." Yuma hesitated, her eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made his breath catch. She took another step forward, closing the distance between them until she was right in front of him. She reached out and gently took his hands in hers, her touch warm and soft. "Issei, would you do something for me?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Issei's heart pounded in his chest. He could feel the warmth of her hands, the softness of her breath as she stood so close. "Of course, Yuma. I'd do anything for you." Yuma's smile was bittersweet, almost sad, as she looked up at him. "Then, would you die for me?" The words hit Issei like a sledgehammer, knocking the breath out of him. His mind reeled, trying to make sense of what she had just said. What? Die for you? What are you talking about?" Before he could pull away, Yuma's grip on his hands tightened, and her expression shifted from sadness to something far darker. Her eyes, once filled with warmth, were now cold and unfeeling, and the sweet girl he had spent the evening with seemed to vanish before his eyes. "Thank you, Issei," Yuma whispered, her voice now carrying an eerie, otherworldly tone. "I knew you'd understand." In a flash, everything changed. The warm, gentle girl was gone, replaced by something terrifying. Black, feathered wings erupted from her back, unfurling to their full span, and her innocent smile twisted into a cruel, mocking grin. Her clothes transformed into a dark, revealing outfit that seemed to radiate malevolent energy. Issei's heart stopped as he watched the transformation, his mind struggling to process what was happening. For a second, he was sure he had saw a pair of balloons. "Yuma, what's going on? What are you?" Issei's voice trembled, fear taking hold as he took a step back, trying to escape the grip she still held on his hands. The girl who was now revealed as Rainier, a fallen angel, laughed softly, her eyes glinting with sadistic pleasure. "Poor, sweet Issei. You really thought you were special, didn't you? That you were going to get the girl of your dreams?" She released his hands and took a step back, summoning a spear of light that crackled with energy, illuminating the dark surroundings. Issei stared at the weapon in horror, his mind screaming at him to run, but his body refused to move. "Why?" Issei stammered, his voice shaking. "Why are you doing this?" Rainier tilted her head, her expression almost pitying. "Because you're a threat, Issei. There's something inside you, something powerful that could be very dangerous if it awakens. And it's my job to make sure that never happens." Issei's legs finally obeyed his mind's frantic commands, and he tried to back away, but Rainier was faster. In an instant, she was in front of him, the spear of light aimed directly at his chest. "Goodbye, Issei," she said coldly, no trace of the girl he had known left in her voice. Before he could react, Rainier thrust the spear forward, impaling Issei through the chest. The world seemed to slow down as the searing pain tore through him, his body going numb as the light from the spear consumed him. Issei's vision blurred, the edges of his consciousness darkening as he felt his life slipping away. The last thing he saw before everything went black was Rainier's cruel smile, and the thought that he had been so close to something real, something good, only for it to be ripped away in an instant. But even as the darkness closed in, a small, desperate thought flickered in his mind, a plea, a cry for help, for someone, anyone, to save him. And then, as if in response to his silent plea, a soft, soothing voice echoed in the depths of his consciousness. Do you wish to live? Issei's fading mind latched onto the voice, a glimmer of hope in the overwhelming darkness. Do you wish to be saved? Yes, Issei thought, the word echoing in his mind, though he lacked the strength to say it aloud. Please, I don't want to die. The voice, gentle yet powerful, resonated through his being. Then, I shall give you a second chance. In the next instant, the pain began to fade, replaced by a strange warmth that spread through his body. The darkness that had been closing in around him retreated, and a soft, golden light enveloped him, cradling him in its warmth. Issei's consciousness slipped away entirely, and everything went black. The sound of birds chirping outside the window gently stirred Issei from his sleep. He groaned softly, rubbing his eyes as he slowly woke up. The morning sunlight streamed into his room, casting a warm glow across his bed. For a moment, he lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together the fragments of the strange, unsettling dream he had just experienced. He remembered bits and pieces. Yuma, the girl he had gone on a date with, had suddenly turned into something terrifying. A fallen angel. There was a spear of light, a flash of pain, and then nothing. The dream had been so vivid, so real, but now, in the light of day, it felt distant, like a fading memory. Issei sighed, pushing himself up to sit on the edge of his bed. Man, what a weird dream. Shaking his head, he stood up and stretched, trying to shake off the lingering unease. I really need to stop watching creepy movies before bed, he muttered to himself as he headed to the bathroom to get ready for school. As he brushed his teeth, Issei's mind kept drifting back to Yuma. The dream had been so vivid that he could still picture her smile, hear her voice. He couldn't help but wonder what she was doing now. After all, the date had real, hadn't it? With that thought in mind, Issei finished getting ready, grabbed his bag, and headed downstairs. His parents were already gone for the day, leaving him alone in the house as usual. He quickly grabbed a piece of toast, stuffed it into his mouth, and dashed out the door. As he made his way to school, Issei's thoughts kept circling back to Yuma. He decided to ask his friends about her, just to see if they remembered her too. After all, they had all talked about the date before it happened. Surely, they'd remember, right? When he arrived at school, he was greeted by the usual bustle of students rushing to their classes. Spotting Matsuda and Motohama near the entrance, Issei quickly made his way over to them. Hey guys, Issei called out, waving as he approached. Do you remember Yuma? The girl I went on a date with yesterday? Matsuda and Motohama exchanged confused looks before turning back to Issei. Yuma? Matsuda repeated, scratching his head. Who's that? Motohama adjusted his glasses, looking equally puzzled. Yeah, Issei, who are you talking about? I don't remember any girl named Yuma. Issei felt a chill run down his spine. You guys, you were the ones who gave me advice for the date. How could you not remember her? Matsuda shook his head. Sorry, man. I have no idea who you're talking about. Are you sure you didn't just dream it? Issei's heart sank as he looked at his friends, their faces blank and uncomprehending. How could they not remember? The date was real, he was sure of it. But now, it seemed like he was the only one who had any memory of Yuma at all. Before he could question them further, a familiar voice called out to him from behind. Issei. Issei turned around to see Naruto Uzumaki jogging over, a wide grin on his face as always. The blonde-haired boy was full of energy, his bright blue eyes shining with curiosity. Naruto, hey, Issei greeted him, trying to hide his confusion. What's up? Naruto came to a stop in front of him, still grinning. So, how'd it go, man? How was the big date? Issei blinked in surprise. You remember? You remember Yuma? Naruto gave him a strange look. Yeah, of course, I remember. You told me all about it yesterday, remember? So, how'd it go? Did you score a second date? Issei's confusion deepened. No one else remembers her. They all act like she never existed. Naruto frowned, glancing over at Matsuda and Motohama, who were still standing nearby. What? That's weird. Maybe everyone's just playing a prank on you or something. You know how these guys are. Issei looked at his friends, who were now shrugging and shaking their heads, clearly just as confused as he was. But it doesn't make sense. Why would they forget her? Naruto shrugged. Beats me. But hey, don't worry about it too much. Maybe it's just one of those weird things. People forget stuff all the time, right? Before Issei could respond, the sound of footsteps on the stairs caught their attention. All four boys turned to see Rias Gremory descending the staircase, her crimson hair flowing gracefully behind her. She moved with an air of elegance and confidence that always seemed to draw the attention of everyone around her. Issei, Matsuda, and Motohama all fell silent, watching as she passed by. Rias glanced at the group, her eyes briefly meeting Issei's before she continued her way. But as she overheard Naruto's next words, she hesitated, her expression briefly faltering. So, seriously, Issei? Naruto pressed, his voice a little louder than necessary. Did you get a second date with Yuma? Rias stopped in her tracks for just a split second, a look of shock flashing across her face before she quickly composed herself and continued walking. Issei, who had been about to respond to Naruto, caught the brief change in Rias's demeanor and felt his confusion deepen even further. No, Issei finally replied, his voice uncertain. She just disappeared. Naruto frowned, clearly puzzled. Weird. Maybe she had to leave town or something. But still, that doesn't explain why no one else remembers her. Issei nodded, his thoughts swirling with unanswered questions. Yeah, it's like she just vanished from everyone's memory. Except for you. Naruto clapped Issei on the back, trying to lighten the mood. Well, whatever it is, we'll figure it out. And hey, if you don't get another date with her, there's plenty of other fish in the sea, right? Issei managed a weak smile, though the unease in his chest hadn't gone away. Yeah, I guess so. As the boys continued their conversation, Rias walked away, her mind racing. She had heard Naruto mention Yuma's name, something that should have been impossible. Rainier's presence had been erased from everyone's memory, as was the case with most supernatural events involving humans. Yet Naruto, a seemingly ordinary human, had remembered her. Rias's eyes narrowed slightly as she pondered this new development. Naruto Uzumaki was becoming more of a mystery by the day, and she knew she couldn't afford to ignore it any longer. As she walked away, Rias resolved to keep a closer eye on both Issei and Naruto. Something strange was happening, and she intended to find out what it was. The rest of the school day passed in a strange blur for Issei. He tried to focus on his classes, but his mind kept drifting back to the events of the previous night and to the confusing reactions of his friends. No one seemed to remember Yuma except for Naruto, who brushed off the whole situation as if it were just a strange quirk of memory. But Issei knew something was wrong. The more he thought about it, the more certain he became that it hadn't just been a dream. After classes, Issei found himself walking home with Naruto, his thoughts still tangled in a web of confusion. The afternoon sun cast long shadows on the sidewalk, and the usual chatter and laughter of students filled the air. But for Issei, everything felt slightly off, like he was seeing the world through a distorted lens. So, any plans for tonight? Naruto asked casually, breaking the silence. Issei shook his head, trying to push his troubled thoughts aside. Not really. I think I'm just going to head home and try to figure out what's going on. Naruto gave him a sympathetic look. You're still hung up on that, huh? Look, man, maybe it's just one of those weird things, you know? Like a glitch in the Matrix or something. Issei managed a small smile at Naruto's attempt to lighten the mood, but the unease in his chest remained. Yeah, maybe. Naruto's expression grew concerned. I know it's weird that no one else remembers her, but maybe there's a reasonable explanation. Issei shook his head. No, I need to know for sure. What if it wasn't just a dream? What if something really happened, and I'm not just imagining things? Naruto studied Issei's face for a moment before nodding slowly. Okay, what do you want to do? I want to go back to the park, Issei said, determination in his voice. I need to see if there's anything that can prove what happened. Naruto considered this for a moment before grinning. All right, let's do it. We'll go check it out together. Relief washed over Issei as he realized that Naruto believed him, or at least was willing to go along with his plan. Together, they made their way out of the school and headed toward the park where everything had gone wrong the night before. The sun was beginning to set as Issei and Naruto arrived at the park. The air was cool and still, and the shadows cast by the trees seemed longer and darker than usual. The park, usually a place of peace and relaxation, now felt ominous, filled with the echoes of the nightmare that Issei couldn't shake. The two boys walked slowly along the path, their eyes scanning the area for anything out of the ordinary. Issei's heart pounded in his chest as they approached the fountain where he had met Yuma. Every step closer brought back memories of the night before. The laughter, the conversation, and then the sudden shift into terror. This is where it happened, Issei said quietly as they reached the spot. He looked around, half expecting to see some sign of the battle that had taken place, but everything looked perfectly normal. Naruto glanced around too, his expression serious. So, what exactly are we looking for? I'm not sure, Issei admitted, frustration creeping into his voice. I thought there might be something. Anything that would prove it wasn't just a dream? Naruto nodded, understanding. Let's look around a bit more. Maybe there's something we missed. They began to search the area more thoroughly, checking behind bushes, under benches, and around the fountain. Issei's anxiety grew with each passing minute, the park's eerie silence only heightening his sense of unease. Naruto walked slightly ahead of Issei, his eyes scanning the area with a focused intensity. He wasn't sure what they were looking for, but the strange stain near the fountain had unsettled him. It was almost like a piece of another reality had bled into their own, leaving behind a mark that shouldn't have existed. As they reached the edge of the park, Naruto suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head. He winced, pressing a hand to his temple as flashes of images and sensations flooded his mind. They were brief, disjointed scenes of battle, the clashing of weapons, and the face of a man, his features worn with age and wisdom, but filled with a deep sadness. Naruto stumbled slightly, the pain in his head intensifying as more images assaulted his mind. A young man with a staff, golden light radiating from it as he stood protectively beside an older, bald man dressed in simple robes. The man's face, though unfamiliar, stirred something deep within Naruto, a sense of recognition that he couldn't quite place. Naruto? You okay? Issei asked, his voice tinged with concern as he noticed his friend faltering. Naruto shook his head, trying to clear the fog from his mind. Yeah, I'm fine. Just give me a second. Without waiting for Issei to respond, Naruto walked a few paces away, his eyes drawn to a large tree at the edge of the park. Something about the tree called to him, a strange pull that he couldn't ignore. As he approached, the pain in his head flared again, and another wave of memories of a past life, a different world overwhelmed him. Leaning against the tree, Naruto closed his eyes, trying to steady his breathing. What is this? What's happening to me? Old friend. A voice, soft and filled with sorrow, echoed in his ears. Naruto opened his eyes and gasped as he saw a ghostly figure standing before him. It was the same man from his flashbacks, the one who had been by his side in those fragmented memories. The man's head was bald, and he wore the simple, flowing robes of a monk. His expression was kind, but his eyes held a deep, almost unbearable sadness. Who are you? Naruto demanded, his voice trembling. And what are you doing in my head? The ghostly figure smiled gently, but there was a sadness in his eyes that seemed to weigh down the very air around him. It's true then. You have returned, after all these years. Returned? What are you talking about? Naruto took a step back, his heart racing. And who the heck is this bald guy? You got the wrong person, pal. The man's smile faded slightly, and he shook his head. You don't remember, do you? But that's to be expected. The memories of a past life are often buried deep, hidden away until the right time. Naruto frowned, the pain in his head still throbbing. Past life? What are you talking about? Who are you? The man's eyes softened as he looked at Naruto. I am Tang Sanzang, the monk who once journeyed with you, seeking enlightenment. You were my protector, my disciple, my friend. But you were also more than that, Naruto, or should I say, Son Wukong, the Monkey King, great sage, equal to heaven. The words hit Naruto like a sledgehammer, and suddenly, the fragmented memories began to come together. He saw himself in another time, another place, a fierce warrior with golden hair, wielding a staff of incredible power. He remembered traveling across vast lands, fighting demons and gods alike, all while standing by the side of this very man, Tang Sanzang. No, this can't be real, Naruto muttered, clutching his head as the memories continued to flood his mind. I'm just Naruto Uzumaki, a normal high school kid. Tang Sanzang's expression was filled with sorrow. I wish it were so simple, my old friend. But you have been reborn in a world that is far different from the one we once knew. The world is not as it used to be, and the challenges you will face now are unlike any we encountered before. Naruto squeezed his eyes shut, the pain in his head intensifying. Why does my head hurt so much? Why are these memories coming back now? Before Tang Sanzang could answer, the sky above them began to change. The soft twilight hues of the evening were replaced by a dark, ominous purple, and the air grew heavy with an unnatural energy. Naruto's eyes snapped open as he felt the shift, and he turned to look back at Issei only to see his friend screaming and running away from a shadowy figure. Issei! Naruto shouted, but when he turned back to Tang Sanzang, the ghostly figure was gone, leaving him alone by the tree. There was no time to process what had just happened. The only thing on Naruto's mind was getting to Issei. He sprinted across the park, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anger. As he approached, he could see the source of Issei's terror: a tall, menacing man dressed in dark robes, with a strange, wide-brimmed hat that obscured most of his face. The man's presence exuded malice, and Naruto could feel the dark energy radiating from him. "Issei, run!" Naruto shouted. Issei was shaking, his face pale with fear. "And Naruto, that guy, he just appeared out of nowhere," he said, trying to run towards Naruto. "You should have stayed with your master, little devil," the man sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. With a swift motion, he hurled the spear directly at Issei. Naruto's eyes widened in horror as the spear flew through the air, too fast for him to react. It struck Issei in the stomach, the force of the blow sending him crashing to the ground. Issei gasped in pain, blood pouring from the wound as he clutched his stomach, his face pale and stricken with shock. "Issei!" Naruto screamed, rushing toward his friend, but stopping short as the man in the hat stepped between them. The man's back was now illuminated by the glow of the spear, revealing large, black wings unfurling from his back, fallen angel wings. The fallen angel looked down at Issei with disdain, then turned his attention to Naruto, his expression shifting to one of confusion. "What's this? Why is a human here?" he sneered, a dark smirk playing on his lips. "No matter. I can't leave any witnesses." Naruto's heart pounded in his chest as he stared at Issei, who was bleeding out in front of him. Rage, fear, and confusion all warred within him as he glared at the fallen angel. "What the hell did you do to him?" Naruto shouted, his voice shaking with anger. The fallen angel, Danasik, smirked, his wings flaring out as he prepared another attack. "You should have run, human. Now you'll die along with him." Danasik thrust his hand forward, sending a blast of dark energy directly at Naruto. The attack struck him square in the chest, but instead of causing any harm, the energy bounced off him, leaving not even a scratch. Naruto looked down in shock, his body completely unscathed. Danasik's smirk faltered, replaced by a look of confusion and frustration. "What? How?" As the sky above them suddenly darkened, swirling with ominous clouds as thunder rumbled in the distance. The air crackled with electricity, and a golden light began to glow around Naruto, forming the shape of a cross that engulfed him in its radiance. The light grew brighter, more intense, until it was almost blinding. Danasik took a step back, his eyes wide with fear and confusion. "What the hell? What are you?" Naruto's eyes snapped open, glowing with an intense blue light, his pupils now tinged with a golden hue. His entire body radiated power, and as he reached out with his hands, it was as if he was gripping an invisible staff. The world around them seemed to freeze, and in that moment, a wave of energy rippled out from Naruto, reverberating through the fabric of reality itself. All across the world, gods, celestial beings, and powerful entities alike felt the disturbance, a presence they had not sensed in eons. The Monkey King, Son Wukong, had returned. Danasik, now trembling with fear, stumbled backward. "Impossible! This can't be happening." Naruto, still holding the invisible staff, stepped forward, his expression filled with a calm fury. "You hurt my friend, and you won't get away with it." Danasik, realizing that he was no match for this newly awakened power, tried to retreat, but it was too late. Naruto swung the invisible staff with incredible speed, and though it was unseen, the force of the blow was undeniable. Danasik was sent flying across the park, crashing into a tree with a sickening thud. Before Danasik could recover, the sky above them lit up with a crimson light, and Rias Gremory appeared, teleporting into the park with Akino Himejima and Kaneko Tuju by her side. The three girls immediately sensed the gravity of the situation: the dark energy from Danasik, Issei's rapidly fading life force, and the overwhelming power emanating from Naruto. Rias's eyes widened as she took in the scene, her heart pounding in her chest. What is this power?" Akino, usually calm and composed, stared in shock. "I've never felt anything like it." Kaneko could only watch in stunned silence as the events unfolded before them. Naruto, still glowing with the golden light, turned to look at Issei, who was barely conscious, blood pooling around him. The sight of his friend in such a state reignited the rage within him, and he turned back to Danasik, who was struggling to stand. "You won't hurt anyone else," Naruto said, his voice resonating with a power that was both ancient and unyielding. Danasik, realizing that he was outmatched, tried to flee, his wings beating furiously as he attempted to take to the sky. But before he could escape, Naruto raised his invisible staff and brought it down with incredible force. The ground beneath Danasik shattered, and the fallen angel was driven into the earth, his body collapsing under the weight of the attack. Rias quickly knelt beside Issei, her hands glowing with a soft, red light as she tried to heal him. Issei, hold on, you're going to be okay. Issei, barely conscious, looked up at Rias, his eyes filled with pain. Rias. Don't talk, Rias said softly, her voice filled with urgency. Just focus on staying alive. I'm not going to let you die. The park was silent, the air still charged with the lingering energy of the confrontation. The dark clouds that had gathered above slowly began to disperse, revealing the night sky once more. Naruto stood frozen, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he stared at the spot where Donasek had been moments before. His hands trembled slightly, but the invisible staff he had wielded was gone, and the golden light that had engulfed him had faded away completely. He turned to look at his hands, confusion and fear swirling in his mind. What just happened? He muttered to himself, unable to comprehend the power that had surged through him just moments ago. Naruto watched in silence, his mind racing with questions and confusion. He had no idea what he had just done, or how he had done it. The power that had surged through him felt both foreign and familiar, like a distant memory he couldn't quite grasp. But now, all he could focus on was the sight of Issei, fighting for his life on the cold ground. As Rias continued to work, Akino Himejima and Kaneko Tuju approached, their expressions a mixture of shock and concern. Akino's usual calm demeanor was replaced with a serious frown as she looked at Naruto. Naruto, Akino began, her voice soft but insistent. What just happened? What did you do? Naruto shook his head, still staring at his trembling hands. I don't know. One minute I was trying to protect Issei, and then everything went crazy. It's like something took over me, but I don't remember any of it. Kaneko, who had been watching him with a wary gaze, finally spoke up. That power, it wasn't anything like a devil's. It was something different, something ancient. Naruto's heart raced as he tried to make sense of it all. I don't know what that was. I swear, I don't remember any of it. All I know is that I wanted to protect Issei. Rias, who had been focusing on healing Issei, glanced up at Naruto, her eyes filled with both curiosity and concern. Naruto, I believe you. But this power, it's not something that can be ignored. We need to figure out what's happening to you. Naruto nodded slowly, still feeling the weight of the unknown pressing down on him. I don't want anyone else to get hurt. Whatever this is, I don't understand it. But if it means protecting the people I care about, I'll do whatever it takes. Rias offered him a reassuring smile. We'll figure this out together, Naruto. You're not alone in this. As the tension in the air slowly began to dissipate, Rias turned her attention back to Issei, whose breathing had begun to stabilize. The healing light from Rias's hands continued to work, slowly mending the damage done by Donasek's spear. Akino and Kaneko kept a watchful eye on the area, making sure there were no other threats lurking in the shadows. The park, once filled with danger and darkness, now felt eerily quiet, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Rias let out a sigh of relief as Issei's wounds closed completely. The color began to return to his face, and his breathing evened out. Rias gently brushed a strand of hair away from his forehead, her expression softening. He's going to be okay, Rias said, her voice filled with relief. He'll need some time to recover, but he's out of danger. Naruto let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding, a wave of relief washing over him. Thank you, Rias. Thank you for saving him. Rias nodded, still looking at Issei with concern. He's part of my peerage now, Naruto. I won't let anything happen to him. Naruto looked puzzled and asked, What's a peerage? Rias smiled and replied, Well, I'm a devil from the House of Gremory. Naruto nodded slowly. Right. Let's get Issei out of here first, then you can tell me more about this peerage and the House of Gremory. Rias nodded her head. As the night grew darker, Naruto carried Issei back to safety. The events of the evening had left everyone shaken, but the questions surrounding Naruto's mysterious power remained at the forefront of their minds. Naruto, still unsure of what had just happened, couldn't help but feel a deep sense of unease. The memories that had briefly flashed through his mind, the overwhelming power that had surged through him, it was all too much to process. But as they made their way back, one thing was clear: whatever had been awakened within Naruto was only the beginning, and the answers they sought would change everything they thought they knew. The Monkey King had returned, and with his return, the balance of the supernatural world had been irrevocably altered. Issei's consciousness drifted slowly from the depths of sleep to the edge of wakefulness. The warmth of his bed and the softness of the sheets made him want to stay curled up and comfortable, but something felt different, unfamiliar. The scent of vanilla and roses filled his senses, a fragrance that wasn't normally part of his morning routine. His eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, he just stared at the ceiling, trying to shake off the remnants of a strange, disjointed dream. Memories of the previous night flickered through his mind. The attack by the fallen angel, the searing pain, Naruto's impossible power, and then darkness. He groaned softly, trying to make sense of it all. Was it just a dream? As he turned his head to the side, his heart nearly stopped. There, lying beside him in bed, was Rias Gremory, completely bare, with her long crimson hair cascading over the pillow. Her soft, porcelain skin practically glowed in the early morning light, and she had a serene expression on her face, as if this was the most natural thing in the world. Issei's eyes widened, and he felt his face flush a deep crimson. What the? His sudden exclamation caused Rias to stir. She opened her eyes slowly, her deep blue gaze locking onto his. For a moment, there was silence as they simply stared at each other, the reality of the situation sinking in. "Good morning, Issei," Rias said softly, her voice carrying a hint of amusement. She stretched slightly, the movement drawing Issei's attention to the curves of her body. Issei's mind raced, and he quickly pulled the sheets up to cover himself, though it did nothing to hide the fact that Rias was still very much bare beside him. "Gee, good morning. What are you doing here? And why are you?" Rias chuckled, her expression warm and calm, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. "Relax, Issei. There's nothing to be embarrassed about." Issei blinked, his heart pounding in his chest. "And nothing to be embarrassed about? You're bare. In my bed." Rias smiled gently, sitting up slightly as she kept the sheets draped over her. "Yes, I am. And so are you." Issei glanced down, realizing that he, too, was completely bare under the covers. His face turned even redder as he struggled to process what was happening. What's going on? How did we? Rias placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder, her touch warm and calming. "Issei, you were hurt very badly last night. You were on the brink of death, but I saved you." Issei's eyes widened as the memories of the previous night came rushing back. The attack, the pain, Naruto's power, and then the darkness that had consumed him. He remembered the spear of light, the sensation of dying, and then nothing. "So, it wasn't a dream," Issei murmured, his voice filled with a mix of disbelief and awe. I'm really a devil now?" Rias nodded, her expression serious but gentle. "Yes, you are. You're part of my peerage now, Issei. That means you're one of my servants, but more importantly, you're part of a new family. I'll teach you everything you need to know about being a devil and help you unlock the potential of your sacred gear." Issei stared at her, his mind spinning with the enormity of what she was saying. "Sacred gear? What's that?" Rias smiled softly, her eyes warm. "A sacred gear is a unique ability that only a few possess. It's what made you a target for the fallen angel, and it's also what makes you special. We'll explore it together, but for now, just focus on recovering." Issei nodded slowly, still trying to process everything. The idea of being a devil, having a sacred gear, and being part of Rias's peerage, it was also overwhelming. But as he looked into Rias's eyes, he felt a strange sense of calm. Despite the insanity of the situation, there was something comforting about her presence. "But why are you in my bed?" Issei asked, his voice trembling slightly as he tried to maintain some semblance of composure. Rias chuckled softly, her expression amused. "It's to help heal your injuries." Issei blinked, trying to wrap his head around the concept. "So, this is normal?" Rias nodded. "In our world, yes. But if it makes you uncomfortable, I can leave." Issei quickly shook his head, his cheeks still flushed. "And no, it's not that. I mean, I'm just not used to this." Rias smiled gently, clearly enjoying his flustered reaction. "That's understandable. But there's nothing to be afraid of, Issei. We're connected now, and I'm here to help you." Issei took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. "Okay, I think I get it. But what happens now?" Rias's expression grew more serious as she considered his question. "For now, you need to rest and let your body fully recover. After that, we'll start training you to use your sacred gear and understand your new abilities. There's a lot to learn, but I'll be with you every step of the way." Issei nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. His life had changed in ways he could never have imagined, but at least he wasn't facing it alone. Rias was there to guide him, and he found comfort in that. Rias gave him one last reassuring smile before gracefully slipping out of bed. She reached for a robe that had been draped over a nearby chair and wrapped it around herself. "I'll give you some time to get dressed. When you're ready, come downstairs. There's much to discuss." Issei nodded, watching as she left the room, her presence leaving a strange void in her absence. As he sat there, The reality of his new life began to sink in. He was no longer just an ordinary high school student, he was a devil, part of a world he had never even dreamed existed. And somehow, despite the fear and confusion, he felt a spark of excitement. This was the beginning of something new, something incredible, and he was ready to face whatever came next. As he got out of bed and began to dress, he couldn't help but wonder what the future held. But one thing was certain, his life would never be the same again. As the morning sun rose over Kuo Academy, Naruto found himself walking through the familiar school gates, yet everything felt different. The events of the previous night lingered in his mind, but they were hazy, like a half-remembered dream that refused to fully reveal itself. He remembered the park, Issei being attacked, and then nothing. A blur of sensations and emotions that he couldn't quite piece together. He tried to focus on the normalcy of the school day, the routine that had always been a comfort to him. But as he made his way to class, the chatter of his fellow students and the bustle of morning activities felt strangely distant, like he was watching it all from behind a pane of glass. As he entered his classroom, Naruto was greeted by the usual crowd of classmates. Some were already in their seats, chatting animatedly about the latest gossip or their weekend plans. But for once, Naruto wasn't in the mood to join in. He felt disconnected, his thoughts too tangled to engage in the usual banter. "Hey, Naruto!" a voice called out, snapping him out of his daze. Naruto turned to see Kiba Yudo, one of the most popular boys in school, approaching him with a friendly smile. "You okay? You look like you didn't get much sleep." Naruto forced a grin, trying to shake off the strange feeling that had settled over him. "Yeah, just a rough night. Didn't sleep well, I guess." Kiba nodded, though there was a hint of concern in his eyes. "If you need to talk, I'm here. You know that, right?" Naruto appreciated the offer, but he wasn't sure how to even begin explaining what had happened. Or rather, what he thought had happened. "Thanks, Kiba. I'll be fine. Just need to get through the day." Kiba gave him a reassuring pat on the back before heading to his seat. Naruto took a deep breath and tried to focus as the teacher walked in and started the lesson. But as the minutes ticked by, he found it increasingly difficult to concentrate. His thoughts kept drifting back to the park, to the strange flashes of power and the feeling that something inside him had changed. At lunch, Naruto made his way to the cafeteria, hoping that some food might help ground him. He grabbed a tray of his favorite ramen and found a seat at one of the less crowded tables, hoping to have some time to think. But as he sat down, he was soon joined by none other than Issei Hyudu, who plopped down across from him with a grin. Issei looked a bit more energetic than Naruto had expected, considering the near-death experience he'd had just the night before. "Yo, Naruto." Issei greeted him, already digging into his lunch. "Man, last night was crazy, huh?" Naruto blinked, surprised by Issei's casual tone. "Yeah, you could say that. How are you feeling?" Issei shrugged, still chewing on a mouthful of food. "Better, I guess. Rias explained a lot of stuff to me this morning, but I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I mean, being a devil and all, it's pretty wild." Naruto nodded slowly, his mind still struggling to catch up. "Yeah, I bet. I'm still trying to figure out what happened with me, though. It's like, I remember bits and pieces, but nothing makes sense." Issei paused, swallowing his food before looking at Naruto more seriously. "You really don't remember what you did? Because it was insane, man. You took down that fallen angel like it was nothing." Naruto frowned, his hands tightening around his chopsticks. "I don't remember much. I felt something inside me, like this huge surge of energy, but it's all a blur. I don't know what it was, or how I did any of it." Issei leaned forward, lowering his voice slightly. "Rias said it was something different from a devil's power. Something ancient. Do you think it's connected to, your past?" Naruto looked down at his ramen, his appetite suddenly gone. "I don't know. I've always felt like there was something missing, but I never knew what it was. And now, all this weird stuff is happening, and I can't explain any of it." Issei gave him a sympathetic look. "Well, whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. You helped me, so I'm gonna be there for you too." Naruto smiled faintly, grateful for Issei's support. "Thanks, man. I appreciate it." The two of them ate in relative silence after that, each lost in their own thoughts. Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that something big was looming on the horizon, something that would change everything. But for now, all he could do was take it one day at a time. The afternoon sun cast long shadows over Kuo Academy as the school day came to an end. Most of the students were eager to head home or hang out with friends, but Issei had something else on his mind. After everything that had happened, he knew he couldn't keep Naruto out of the loop, especially since Rias had specifically asked to speak with him. As the final bell rang, Issei made his way through the bustling hallways, weaving between groups of students as he searched for his friend. He finally spotted Naruto near the school entrance, looking lost in thought as he leaned against the wall. Naruto, Issei called out, waving as he approached. Naruto looked up, blinking as he was pulled from his thoughts. Hey, Issei, what's up? Issei grinned, though there was a hint of seriousness in his eyes. I was hoping you'd come with me to the Occult Research Club. Rias wants to talk to you about what happened last night. Naruto frowned slightly, pushing himself off the wall. Rias? She wants to talk to me? About what? She didn't say exactly, Issei admitted, scratching the back of his head. But I think it's got something to do with that power you used. She's got a lot of questions. Naruto hesitated, the memories of the previous night still fresh and confusing in his mind. He wasn't sure if he was ready to confront whatever was happening to him, but he also knew that he couldn't avoid it forever. If Rias had answers, or at least a way to find them, then he needed to hear what she had to say. All right, Naruto finally said, nodding. Let's go. Issei smiled, relieved that Naruto had agreed. Great. Follow me. The two made their way through the school, heading toward the old building where the Occult Research Club was located. As they walked, Naruto couldn't help but feel a mixture of apprehension and curiosity. The events of the previous night were still a jumbled mess in his mind, but he hoped that Rias might be able to shed some light on what had happened and what it meant for him. When they reached the clubroom, Issei knocked on the door before opening it, gesturing for Naruto to follow him inside. The room was spacious and filled with a strange, almost mystical atmosphere. The walls were lined with bookshelves, and a large, ornate desk sat near the back of the room. The soft glow of candlelight illuminated the space, casting long shadows across the floor. Rias was seated at the desk, her crimson hair flowing over her shoulders like a river of fire. She looked up as they entered, her expression calm but focused. Akino Himejima stood beside her, a gentle smile on her lips, while Kaneko Tuju sat quietly on one of the couches next to Kiba Yuto, her gaze fixed on Naruto with her usual stoic demeanor. Welcome, Naruto, Rias greeted him, her voice warm but serious. Thank you for coming. Please, have a seat. Naruto nodded, taking a seat on the couch next to Issei. He could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on him, and it only added to the tension that had been building inside him since the previous night. Rias leaned forward slightly, her gaze intense but not unkind. I know you've been through a lot in the past 24 hours, and I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. There are some things we need to discuss about what happened last night, and about the power you used. Naruto took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. I'll answer whatever I can, but honestly, I don't remember much. It's all a blur. Rias nodded, her expression thoughtful. That's understandable. What you experienced was something extraordinary, something that goes beyond the power of devils, fallen angels, or even humans. It's ancient, and it's powerful, and it's something that none of us fully understand. Akino stepped forward, her voice gentle as she added, We're not here to judge you, Naruto. We just want to help you understand what's happening to you. Whatever this power is, it's part of you now, and it's important that we figure out what it means. Naruto glanced at Issei, who gave him an encouraging nod. All right, Naruto said slowly, turning back to Rias. What do you want to know? Rias folded her hands on the desk, her gaze unwavering. First, I'd like to know how much you remember from last night. Do you recall anything specific about the moment when you unleashed that power? Naruto frowned, searching his memories. It's hard to explain. I remember feeling this surge of energy inside me, like something was waking up. And then there was this pressure, like I was holding something in my hands, but I couldn't see it. After that, everything's a blur. Kaneko, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke up. The power you used, it felt different. Not like anything I've ever sensed before. It was ancient. Naruto nodded slowly. I've been getting these flashes memories, I think, but they're not mine. Or at least, they don't feel like mine. There's this man, a monk or something, and he keeps talking to me like he knows me. He called me Sun Wukong. Rias's eyes widened slightly at the name, and she exchanged a quick glance with Akino before turning back to Naruto. Sun Wukong, the Monkey King from Chinese mythology? Naruto shrugged, feeling a bit lost. I guess? I don't really know much about him, but the memories, they feel real. Like they're part of me. Akino's expression grew more serious. Sun Wukong is a legendary figure, a being of immense power and skill. If these memories are connected to you, then it could mean that you've been reincarnated, or that his power has somehow been passed on to you. Rias nodded in agreement. It's possible that the power you unleashed last night is a manifestation of that connection. But we need to learn more about you, about this power, and about what it means for all of us. Naruto listened carefully, trying to absorb everything they were saying. It was overwhelming, but at the same time, it felt like pieces of a puzzle were slowly falling into place. So, what do we do now? Rias smiled gently, her eyes filled with determination. We take it one step at a time. We'll do more research, both here and through our contacts, to understand the nature of this power. And in the meantime, we'll help you learn to control it. You're not alone in this, Naruto. Naruto felt a surge of relief at her words. Despite the uncertainty and fear that had been gnawing at him, he knew that he was in good hands. With Rias, Aquino, and the rest of the Occult Research Club supporting him, he didn't have to face this challenge alone. Thank you, Naruto said sincerely, looking at each of them in turn. I really appreciate your help. Rias nodded, her smile warm. We're all in this together, and we'll figure out the truth, no matter what it takes. Issei leaned back on the couch, letting out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Man, this is all so crazy, but I guess we've all got a lot to learn. Aquino chuckled softly, her usual playful smile returning. Indeed, but I think we're up for the challenge. As the atmosphere in the room lightened, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead was uncertain, and there were still many questions left unanswered, but he knew that he had a strong group of friends and allies by his side. Whatever the future held, Naruto was ready to face it head-on. Far above the mortal realm, in the ethereal splendor of the heavenly palace, a sense of unease had settled over the celestial court. The palace, normally a place of tranquility and order, was abuzz with whispers and nervous energy as celestial beings and deities alike felt a disturbance rippling through the very fabric of the universe. At the heart of the palace, in the grand hall of heavenly justice, the Jade Emperor, the supreme ruler of the heavens, sat on his throne, his expression solemn and thoughtful. His long, flowing robes shimmered with the light of 1,000 stars, and his eyes, ancient and wise, were fixed on the golden cloud hovering before him. The cloud, a divine artifact that relayed messages and visions from across the realms, pulsed with a powerful energy that the Jade Emperor hadn't felt in centuries. Sun Wukong, the Jade Emperor murmured to himself, his voice barely above a whisper, yet it carried a weight that silenced the entire hall. The other deities and celestial beings gathered around the throne exchanged uneasy glances. The name of Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, was one that inspired both fear and awe. It was a name that had been etched into the annals of heaven's history, a name associated with rebellion, chaos, and an almost unquenchable thirst for freedom. It had been eons since Wukong had been subdued and brought under control, his rebellious spirit finally tamed by the teachings of the monk Tang Sanzang. The Jade Emperor had believed that chapter to be closed, a tale from a distant past that no longer posed a threat to the harmony of the heavens. But now, the unmistakable presence of Wukong's power had resurfaced, sending shockwaves through the celestial realms. The Jade Emperor could not ignore this disturbance, nor could he allow it to go unchecked. With a deep, measured breath, the Jade Emperor rose from his throne, his towering presence commanding the attention of all in the hall. The murmurs ceased, and a heavy silence fell over the assembly as the Emperor prepared to speak. Sun Wukong's power has reawakened, the Jade Emperor announced, his voice resonating through the hall. The Monkey King, who once defied the heavens, has returned. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd, but the Jade Emperor raised a hand, silencing them once more. His return is not yet fully understood, the Emperor continued, his tone grave. We do not know if he is friend or foe, nor do we know the circumstances of his rebirth, but we cannot afford to take this lightly. The balance of the realms could be at stake. The deities and celestial beings listened intently, their faces a mixture of concern and determination. They knew the power that Sun Wukong possessed, the power to shake the very foundations of the heavens. If he had indeed returned, it could mean a new era of turmoil, one that the celestial court was not prepared to face. The Jade Emperor turned to one of his most trusted advisors, a wise and powerful deity known as Erlang Shun. Erlang Shun, with his third eye that could see through all deceptions, had been instrumental in subduing Wukong in the past. The Emperor knew that if anyone could track down the Monkey King and determine his intentions, it would be Erlang Shun. Erlang Shun, the Jade Emperor called, his voice firm and commanding. You are to lead a celestial delegation to the mortal realm. Find Sun Wukong, assess his strength, and determine whether he poses a threat to the heavens once more. Erlang Shun stepped forward, his expression resolute. He bowed deeply before the Jade Emperor, his third eye glowing faintly with divine power. As you command, Your Majesty, I will ensure that the Monkey King's intentions are revealed, and if necessary, I will take action to protect the balance of the realms. The Jade Emperor nodded, his gaze never wavering. Remember, Erlang Shun, Sun Wukong is not to be underestimated. His power is formidable, and his cunning even more so. Proceed with caution. Erlang Shun nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. I will not fail, Your Majesty. With that, the Jade Emperor waved his hand, and a portal opened in the center of the hall, swirling with celestial light. Erlang Shun, along with a group of elite celestial warriors, stepped forward, their forms glowing with divine energy as they prepared to enter the mortal realm. As the portal closed behind them, the Jade Emperor returned to his throne, his mind heavy with the possibilities that lay ahead. The reawakening of Sun Wukong could mean many things, none of them simple, and few of them safe. The Emperor knew that the celestial court must be prepared for whatever was to come, even if it meant facing the Monkey King in battle once more. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the tatami mats of the dojo, where Naruto was in the middle of an intense sparring session. The dojo, a place where he had spent countless hours honing his martial arts skills, was a sanctuary for him, a place where he could lose himself in the rhythm of combat and momentarily forget the strange events that had been unfolding in his life. Today, however, his sparring partner wasn't just anyone. It was Rock Lee, a fellow martial artist with an unmatched enthusiasm and an unyielding dedication to training. Lee's energy was infectious, and his passion for martial arts was well known throughout Kuo Town. His thick eyebrows and bowl-cut hairstyle made him stand out, but it was his fiery spirit that left a lasting impression on everyone he met. "Naruto!" Rock Lee shouted, his voice brimming with enthusiasm as he assumed his fighting stance. "I can feel the youthful energy within you today. Let's give this match everything we've got and push beyond our limits." Naruto grinned, his own excitement building as he faced off against Lee. "You bet, Lee. Let's go all out." With that, the two launched into a flurry of kicks and punches, their movements a blur of speed and precision. Lee's taijutsu skills were legendary, and he moved with a speed and agility that few could match. But Naruto, with his newfound mastery of renewal taekwondo, was more than up to the challenge. Lee attacked with a rapid series of kicks, each one faster than the last. Naruto dodged and countered, his body moving with a fluid grace that belied the intensity of the fight. As they sparred, Naruto found himself slipping into a state of heightened focus, his movements becoming more instinctual, more powerful. "Your techniques have improved greatly, Naruto," Lee exclaimed between strikes, his eyes wide with admiration. "I can see the results of your hard work and dedication. This is the power of youth." Naruto couldn't help but smile at Lee's infectious enthusiasm. "Thanks, Lee, but I'm just getting started." Lee responded with a powerful roundhouse kick aimed at Naruto's head, but Naruto ducked low, avoiding the strike by a hair's breadth. Without missing a beat, Naruto retaliated with a spinning back kick that forced Lee to leap back, barely avoiding the impact. "Impressive," Lee said, his eyes shining with excitement. "Your movements are sharp and precise. This is exactly the kind of challenge I was hoping for." As the fight continued, Naruto felt something stir within him, a strange sensation, like a memory trying to surface. With each strike, each movement, he felt a growing connection to something deep inside him, something ancient and powerful. The dojo seemed to fade away, and Naruto found himself standing in a different place, a place that existed only in his mind. He saw himself dressed in red robes, his reflection in a pool of water showing him as someone else, someone with fierce eyes and an aura of unstoppable power. He was no longer just Naruto Uzumaki. He was Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. The memory was fleeting, but it was enough to throw him off balance. Sensing an opening, Lee charged forward with a high-speed kick aimed at Naruto's midsection. But before the kick could land, Naruto's body moved on its own, evading the attack with a sudden burst of speed and delivering a powerful counterkick that sent Lee sprawling to the mat. The impact was strong enough to shake the dojo, and Lee lay on the ground, staring up at the ceiling in shock and awe. "Naruto!" Lee gasped as he pushed himself up onto his elbows, a huge grin spreading across his face despite the defeat. "That was amazing. The power and speed of your techniques, truly the embodiment of youthful spirit." Naruto, still breathing heavily, extended a hand to help Lee up. "Thanks, Lee. I don't know what came over me. It just happened." Lee took Naruto's hand and jumped to his feet, his enthusiasm undiminished. "You have truly grown, Naruto. This is what hard work and dedication can achieve. But remember, the journey of youth never ends. We must continue to train, to push ourselves beyond our limits every day." Naruto couldn't help but laugh, despite the confusion still swirling in his mind. "Yeah, you're right, Lee. We'll keep getting stronger together." But as the two friends exchanged smiles, a sharp pain shot through Naruto's head, and he staggered back, clutching his temples. The dojo around him blurred, and for a brief moment, everything went dark. In the darkness, Naruto saw flashes of another world, memories that were not his own but felt as if they belonged to him. He saw a vast, towering mountain, its peak hidden in the clouds. He saw celestial beings, their forms radiant with divine light, and heard the clash of weapons as battles raged across the heavens. But above all, he saw a figure clad in red, a boy, barely more than a child, with skin as red as blood and eyes that burned with an intense, fiery light. The boy looked at him, a sinister grin spreading across his face. "Found you," the boy said, his voice echoing in Naruto's mind. It was a voice filled with malice and anticipation, as if he had been searching for Naruto for a long, long time. Naruto gasped, his eyes snapping open as the vision faded. He found himself back in the dojo, his heart racing and his body drenched in sweat. The pain in his head had subsided, but the memory of the red boy lingered, sending a chill down his spine. "Naruto, are you all right?" Lee asked, his voice full of concern as he rushed to Naruto's side. Naruto nodded, trying to steady his breathing. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just got a little dizzy there." Lee frowned, his brows furrowed in worry. "Perhaps you pushed yourself too hard in our sparring session. But don't worry. With proper rest and the power of youth, you'll be back to full strength in no time." Naruto forced a smile, though his mind was still reeling. "Thanks, Lee. I think I just need some air." Without waiting for a response, Naruto turned and headed for the door, his thoughts racing. The vision, the boy in red, the feeling of being found, it was all too much. He needed to clear his head, to make sense of what was happening to him. As he stepped outside, the cool evening air washed over him, and he took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions swirling inside him. "Found you." The boy's words echoed in his mind, refusing to be silenced. Who was that boy? And what did he mean by "found you"? Was it just another fragment of his past life as son Wukong? Or was it something more, something connected to the power that had reawakened within him? Naruto didn't have the answers, but one thing was certain. Whatever was happening, it wasn't over. The memories, the visions, they were coming faster now, more intense with each passing day. And with them came the undeniable feeling that something or someone was watching him, waiting for the right moment to strike. As Naruto walked away from the dojo, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the town. He wandered aimlessly through the streets, lost in thought, trying to piece together the fragments of his memories and the strange visions that had begun to plague him. The boy in red. There was something familiar about him, something that sent a shiver down Naruto's spine. He had never seen anyone like that before, yet the boy's face was burned into his mind, as if he had known him for years. "Who are you?" Naruto whispered to himself, his voice barely audible. He knew he wouldn't get an answer, but the question gnawed at him, refusing to be ignored. Was the boy a part of his past life, a remnant of the Monkey King's memories? Or was he something else entirely, something that had been searching for him across time and space, waiting for the moment when Naruto's power would reawaken? The possibilities were endless, and each one was more unsettling than the last. Naruto's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps behind him. He turned, expecting to see one of his friends, but there was no one there. The street was empty, bathed in the soft glow of the streetlights, but the feeling of being watched persisted. He clenched his fists, his instincts on high alert. Whoever or whatever was out there, he wasn't going to let them catch him off guard. "Come on," Naruto muttered, his voice low and challenging. "Show yourself." But the only response was the rustling of the wind through the trees. Naruto shook his head, trying to dispel the tension that had settled over him. Maybe he was just being paranoid, his mind playing tricks on him after the intense memories and visions. But deep down, he knew that something was coming, something he wasn't prepared for. As he continued walking, the sense of dread remained, a constant reminder that his life was no longer as simple as it once had been. The memories of Sun Wukong, the strange power within him, the boy in red, everything was leading him towards something, and he wasn't sure if he was ready to face it. But one thing was clear, he couldn't run from it. Whatever was coming, he had to confront it head on, just as he always, and with his friends by his side, he would find the answers he sought, no matter how difficult the journey might be. With renewed determination, Naruto headed home, his mind still buzzing with questions, but his resolve stronger than ever. The road ahead was uncertain, but he would face it with the same spirit that had carried him through every challenge so far. As the night settled in, the boy in red's words echoed once more in his mind, a chilling reminder that the past was not as distant as it seemed. "Found you." Naruto woke up the next morning with a sense of unease, gnawing at the edges of his mind. The visions from the previous day, the memories that had surfaced during his sparring session with Rock Lee still lingered, casting a shadow over his thoughts. He rubbed his eyes, trying to shake off the remnants of the dream that had haunted his sleep, but the feeling of dread remained. After taking a deep breath, Naruto got out of bed and began to get ready for the day. He reached for his school uniform, but after a moment's hesitation, he decided to pull on an orange shirt over it, a color that always brought him comfort, a reminder of who he was at his core. Before leaving his small apartment, Naruto paused to look at a picture hanging on the wall. It was an old photograph of his parents, a snapshot of happier times. His mother, Kushina, with her fiery red hair and warm smile, and his father, Minato, with his kind eyes and confident stance. They had both died when he was young, leaving him to grow up alone, but their memory was always with him. "Morning, Mom." "Morning, Dad," Naruto murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm heading out now. I'll see you later." With that, he turned and left the apartment, stepping out into the crisp morning air. The sky was clear, the sun shining brightly, but Naruto couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled in his chest. The visions, the boy in red everything was starting to weigh on him more than he cared to admit. As he walked toward Kuo Academy, trying to clear his mind, he noticed something out of the corner of his eye. A young girl with long blonde hair, dressed as a nun, was walking a short distance ahead of him. She seemed to be struggling with something, her steps unsteady, and before Naruto could react, she tripped and fell to the ground. Naruto hurried over, his concern pushing aside his troubled thoughts. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, kneeling down beside her. The girl looked up at him with wide, innocent green eyes, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice soft and apologetic. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble." Naruto smiled gently as he helped her to her feet. "No trouble at all. Just be careful, okay?" The girl smiled back, her expression filled with gratitude. "Thank you. I'm new in town, and I'm still getting used to everything. I was actually looking for the church, but I must have taken a wrong turn." Before Naruto could respond, he heard a familiar voice calling his name from down the street. He turned to see Issei jogging toward him, a wide grin on his face. "Naruto, there you are," Issei called out as he approached. "I've been looking for you, man." Naruto waved, glad to see his friend. "Hey, Issei, just helping someone out." He turned back to the girl, remembering that they hadn't properly introduced themselves. "By the way, I didn't catch your name." The girl's blush deepened as she clasped her hands in front of her. "Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Asia. Asia Argento." Naruto smiled warmly. "Nice to meet you, Asia. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, and this is my friend, Issei Hayudu." Issei nodded in greeting, though his attention was clearly drawn to Asia's gentle demeanor and the innocence in her eyes. "Hi, Asia. Nice to meet you." Asia smiled at both of them, her nervousness easing a bit in their presence. "Thank you. I'm really glad I ran into you both. I was feeling a bit lost." Naruto thought for a moment before offering, "Hey, would you like us to show you the way to the church? We can walk with you if you want." Asia's eyes lit up with relief and gratitude. "Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. I didn't want to be a bother, but I really appreciate it." Naruto chuckled, waving off her concerns. "It's no bother at all. Come on, we'll take you there." Issei, who had been watching the exchange with a mixture of curiosity and admiration, quickly fell into step beside Naruto as they began walking with Asia. "So, Asia, what brings you to Kuo Town? Are you here on some kind of mission?" Asia hesitated for a moment, as if choosing her words carefully. "I was sent here to serve at the church. It's my first time traveling outside my home country, and everything here is so different. I'm still getting used to it all." Naruto nodded, understanding the feeling of being out of place. "Don't worry, you'll get the hang of it in no time. Kuo Town is a pretty nice place once you get used to it." As they walked, Naruto couldn't help but notice the contrast between Asia's pure and innocent aura and the darkness that seemed to be closing in around him. It was as if she represented everything that was good and gentle in the world, while he was being drawn into something far more dangerous and uncertain. But he pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on the task at hand. For now, his priority was helping Asia find her way, and maybe in doing so, he could find a brief reprieve from the storm brewing in his own life. The walk to the church was pleasant, and Asia seemed to relax more with every step. She chatted with Naruto and Issei about the differences between Japan and her home in Europe, sharing stories about her time in the convent and her excitement about serving at the church in Kuo Town. Naruto found himself enjoying the conversation, grateful for the distraction from his own worries. Asia's kind nature and gentle spirit were a soothing presence, and even Issei, who usually had a one-track mind, seemed genuinely interested in what she had to say. "So, you're going to be working at the church here?" Issei asked, his curiosity piqued. "What kind of stuff will you be doing?" Asia smiled, her eyes shining with excitement. "Yes, I'll be helping with the services and taking care of the church grounds. It's a big responsibility, but I'm really looking forward to it. I've always wanted to help people, and this is a wonderful opportunity to do that." Naruto nodded approvingly. "That sounds great, Asia. I'm sure you'll do an amazing job." Asia blushed slightly at the compliment. "Thank you, Naruto. That means a lot. But just as they turned a corner onto a quieter street, a small boy ran past them, his steps unsteady as he played with a small ball. In his excitement, he didn't see the uneven sidewalk ahead of him. Before anyone could react, the boy tripped and fell hard onto the pavement, scraping his knee. The boy cried out in pain, his eyes welling up with tears as he clutched his injured knee. Naruto and Issei immediately moved to help, but Asia was quicker. She rushed over to the boy, her expression filled with concern and compassion. "Are you okay?" Asia asked gently as she knelt beside the boy, her voice soft and soothing. The boy sniffled, looking up at her with teary eyes. "It hurts." Asia smiled reassuringly. "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." Naruto and Issei watched curiously as Asia placed her hands gently over the boy's injured knee. A soft, green light began to emanate from her hands, surrounding the wound with a warm, comforting glow. The boy's tears slowed as he stared in awe at the light, the pain in his knee rapidly subsiding. Within moments, the scrape on the boy's knee had completely healed, leaving no trace of the injury. The boy flexed his leg, his expression shifting from confusion to delight as he realized he was no longer in pain. "Wow!" the boy exclaimed, his eyes wide with wonder. "It doesn't hurt anymore." Asia smiled warmly, patting the boy on the head. "There you go. All better." Naruto and Issei, who had been watching in stunned silence, exchanged a shocked glance. Neither of them had expected to see something like this, especially from someone as unassuming as Asia. "Asia, that was amazing," Naruto said, unable to hide his astonishment. "How did you do that?" Issei, equally amazed, nodded in agreement. "Yeah, that was like magic or something." Asia looked up at them, her expression shy but pleased. "It's something I've always been able to do. It's a gift from God. I've been able to heal injuries like that since I was a child." Naruto stared at her, still processing what he had just seen. "You've always been able to heal people? That's incredible." Asia's smile faltered slightly, and she looked down at her hands. "It's a blessing, but it's also been difficult at times. Not everyone understands it, and some people have been afraid of me because of it." Naruto's heart ached at the sadness in her voice. He could see that, despite the kindness she showed, Asia had experienced her share of hardship because of her gift. "Well, I think it's amazing," Naruto said sincerely. "You have the power to help people, and that's something really special." Issei nodded in agreement, his earlier shock replaced by admiration. "Yeah, Asia. Don't let anyone make you feel bad about it. You're awesome." The boy, still beaming from having his knee healed, looked up at Asia with wide eyes. "Thank you, miss. You're like a real-life angel." Asia blushed at the compliment, a soft giggle escaping her lips. "I'm just happy I could help." The boy's mother, who had been nearby, hurried over to thank Asia profusely before taking her son by the hand and leading him away, the boy waving happily as they left. As the three of them continued their way, Naruto couldn't stop thinking about what he had just witnessed. Asia's ability to heal was unlike anything he had ever seen, and it only deepened the sense of mystery that surrounded her. "Asia," Naruto said after a moment of silence, "you really are something special." Asia looked at him, her eyes reflecting a mix of gratitude and uncertainty. "Thank you, Naruto. But sometimes I wonder why I was given this gift. It can be hard to understand." Naruto nodded, understanding her struggle. "I get that. Sometimes the things we're given, powers or responsibilities, can be tough to figure out. But I think you're doing something really good with yours." Issei chimed in, trying to lighten the mood. "And hey, if you ever need someone to cheer you on, you've got us." Asia's smile returned, and she nodded. "Thank you, both of you. You've been so kind to me today." As they walked, the atmosphere between them grew more relaxed, the earlier tension and unease giving way to a sense of camaraderie. With the church in view, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. The church itself was an imposing structure, its Gothic architecture standing out against the modern buildings around it. But there was an air of unease that seemed to hang over the place, as if it were a relic from another time, out of place in the present day. Naruto glanced at Issei, who seemed to feel it too. "This place feels different," he murmured. Issei nodded in agreement. "Yeah, I don't know what it is, but there's something about this church that gives me the creeps." Asia, however, seemed oblivious to their concerns, her eyes filled with awe as she took in the sight of the church. "It's beautiful," she whispered, a soft smile on her lips. "I can't believe I'm really here." Naruto forced a smile, pushing his unease aside. "I'm glad we could help you find it, Asia. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask. We're just a call away." Asia turned to them, her expression filled with gratitude. "Thank you both so much. I hope we can meet again soon." Issei grinned, trying to lighten the mood. "Definitely. Maybe we can show you around town sometime, once you're settled in. Asia's smile widened. I'd like that. Thank you. With a final wave, Asia turned and headed toward the church entrance, her steps light and full of hope. Naruto and Issei watched her go, both feeling a mix of emotions, relief at having helped her, and a lingering sense of unease about the church itself. As they turned to leave, Naruto couldn't help but glance back at the church, the sense of dread creeping back into his mind. He couldn't explain it, but something about this encounter felt like the beginning of something much larger, something that would draw him deeper into the mysteries surrounding his own life. Let's head to school, Naruto said, trying to shake off the feeling. We've got a lot to do today. Issei nodded, though he too seemed lost in thought. Yeah, let's go. As they walked away from the church, the sense of foreboding lingered. A reminder that the world they were part of was far more complex and far more dangerous than it seemed. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that their paths would cross with Asia's again, sooner rather than later. The school day was progressing as usual when Naruto received an unexpected summons. He had just finished a math class, his mind wandering as he absent-mindedly doodled in his notebook, when one of the student council members approached him, Tsubaki Shinra. Naruto Uzumaki? Tsubaki called out, catching Naruto's attention. Naruto looked up, blinking in surprise. Yeah, that's me. What's up? The student council president, Sauna Shirtorai, would like to see you in her office, Tsubaki said formally. Please come with me. Naruto frowned slightly, unsure of why the student council would want to see him. He wasn't exactly a troublemaker, so it couldn't be that. With a shrug, he gathered his things and followed the student council member through the hallways to the council's office. As they reached the door, Tsubaki gestured for him to enter. She's waiting for you inside. Naruto nodded, taking a deep breath before stepping into the room. The office was spacious and meticulously organized, with shelves lined with books and a large desk in the center. Behind the desk sat Sauna Shirtorai, the student council president, known for her strict demeanor and sharp intellect. She looked up as Naruto entered, her expression calm and measured. Naruto Uzumaki, thank you for coming. Naruto gave her a nod, still unsure of what this was about. No problem. You wanted to see me? Sauna motioned for him to take a seat in front of her desk. Yes. Please, have a seat. Naruto did as she asked, glancing around the room as he sat down. He noticed a few other members of the student council standing nearby, including a tall boy with spiky blonde hair and a confident smirk on his face, Saji Jinchuru, if Naruto remembered correctly. Once Naruto was seated, Sauna leaned forward slightly, her gaze piercing as she studied him. I've heard some interesting things about you, Naruto. Naruto raised an eyebrow, feeling a bit on edge. Interesting things? Like what? Sauna smiled slightly, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. I've heard from Rias Gremory that you possess some kind of special power. A power that's unusual, even among those in the supernatural world. Naruto's heart skipped a beat at the mention of Rias. He hadn't expected her to share anything about him with Sauna, and the fact that she had only added to his growing sense of unease. And what does that mean to you? He asked, his tone cautious. Sauna's smile faded as she leaned back in her chair, her expression becoming more serious. Naruto, there's something you need to know. I'm not just the student council president here at Kuo Academy. Like Rias, I'm also a devil. My true name is Sona Citri, and I lead a peerage of devils under my family's banner. Naruto blinked, taken aback by her revelation. For a moment, he simply stared at her, processing the information. So, you're a devil too? He muttered, a hint of incredulity in his voice. Of course, you're a devil. It's like everyone here knew about the supernatural except me. Sona's expression softened slightly as she observed his reaction. I understand this may be overwhelming, but that's precisely why I wanted to speak with you. I believe you could be an invaluable asset, and I would like to extend an offer for you to join my peerage. Naruto tilted his head, clearly surprised. Join your peerage? Why? Sona folded her hands on the desk, her tone measured and professional. Rias recently acquired a very powerful asset, the Red Dragon Emperor. I find myself in need of someone who can help balance the scales, so to speak. With your abilities, you could not only help even the odds, but also grow stronger in the process. Naruto sat back in his chair, his mind racing as he considered her offer. It was clear that Sona saw something in him, something she believed could be useful to her. But the idea of joining a peerage, of becoming a devil, it just didn't sit right with him. After a moment of silence, Naruto shook his head. Thanks, but no thank you. It's not like being a devil is bad or anything, but I just want to stay as myself. Sona raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued by his response. Stay as yourself? What do you mean? Naruto hesitated, his eyes dropping to the floor as a wave of sadness washed over him. He hadn't intended to say so much, but the words spilled out before he could stop them. I don't want to be Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, or the great sage equal to heaven. I just want to be Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki. Sona's eyes widened slightly in surprise, her calm demeanor momentarily slipping. Sun Wukong? The Monkey King? You mean to say that you're… Naruto sighed, running a hand through his hair. Yeah, I thought Rias might have told you, but I guess she didn't mention that part. Before Sona could respond, Saji, who had been listening to the conversation with a skeptical expression, couldn't hold back any longer. Yeah, right, Saji scoffed. This guy? Some kind of god? Come on, President, you don't really believe that, do you? Sona shot Saji a sharp look, silencing him before turning her attention back to Naruto. There's only one way to test this, she said thoughtfully. She reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a small, ornate box. Opening it, she revealed a set of black chess pieces, each one radiating a faint, otherworldly energy. Naruto looked at the pieces with curiosity and confusion. What are those? These are evil pieces, Sona explained, her tone turning more serious. They're used to reincarnate humans into devils, making them part of a devil's peerage. If you truly are something different, a god or otherwise, then these pieces will react in a very specific way. Naruto frowned, still unsure of what she was getting at. So, what would this prove? Sona carefully selected a single piece from the set of rook and held it out to him. If you're a normal human, this piece will successfully reincarnate you as a devil. But if you're something more, then the piece won't take. It will be rejected, and we'll know that you're truly different. Naruto hesitated, glancing at the piece in her hand. He wasn't entirely sure what to make of this, but the curiosity and determination in Sona's eyes told him that she was serious. After a moment of consideration, he nodded. All right, let's give it a try. Sona's expression remained neutral as she approached Naruto, holding the pawn piece carefully in her hand. This might feel a bit strange, but it won't hurt, she assured him. Naruto nodded again, bracing himself for whatever was about to happen. Sona pressed the pawn piece against Naruto's chest, and for a brief moment, nothing happened. Then, the piece began to glow with a soft, crimson light as it slowly sank into his body. Naruto felt a strange sensation, a warmth spreading through his chest, but it was quickly followed by something else, something powerful and overwhelming. Suddenly, the entire building began to shake. The windows rattled, and the ground beneath them trembled as if an earthquake had struck. Sona and the other members of the student council looked around in alarm, ducking as books and papers fell from the shelves. The evil piece inside Naruto's body began to glow even brighter, but instead of settling into place, it was violently expelled, shooting out of his chest like a bullet. It embedded itself in the wall behind him with a force that cracked the plaster. Sona's eyes widened in shock, her usual calm demeanor completely shattered. What just happened? Naruto, breathing heavily from the experience, looked at her with a mix of sadness and resolve. I guess that clears everything up, he said quietly. Saji, who had been crouching behind a desk to avoid the chaos, stood up slowly, his eyes wide with disbelief. No way. That really happened? Sona approached the wall where the evil piece had lodged itself, carefully pulling it out and examining it. The piece was intact, but it no longer radiated the energy it once had. It was as if it had been drained, its power rendered useless by whatever force resided within Naruto. Sona turned back to Naruto, her expression one of awe and confusion. So, you really are Sun Wukong, the Monkey King? Naruto nodded, a bitter smile on his face. Yeah, I guess I am. But like I said, I just want to be Naruto Uzumaki. For a moment, there was silence in the room as everyone absorbed what had just happened. The tension was palpable, but there was also a sense of understanding. Naruto was something more than they had ever encountered before, something that couldn't be defined by the usual rules of the supernatural world. Sona finally sighed, her expression softening as she met Naruto's gaze. I understand. I won't press you any further. But know this, Naruto, you may not want to be the Monkey King, but whatever power you have, it's part of you now. You can't ignore it, no matter how much you want to. Naruto nodded, appreciating her understanding. I know, and I'll deal with it in my own way. Sona gave him a small, respectful nod. If you ever change your mind, my offer still stands. You'd be a valuable ally, and I believe we could accomplish great things together. Naruto smiled faintly, though the sadness in his eyes remained. Thanks, Sona. I'll think about it. With that, the meeting was over. Naruto stood up and left the student council room, his mind heavy with the weight of his newfound identity. As he walked through the empty hallways of Kuo Academy, he couldn't help but wonder what the future held for him and whether he would ever truly be able to escape the shadow of his past. Naruto was making his way back to the dojo after the unsettling meeting with Sona. The weight of everything that had happened was still heavy on his mind, especially the revelation that he was, or at least had been, the legendary son Wukong, the Monkey King. He couldn't help but wonder what that meant for his future, or if he could ever truly escape the shadow of his past. As he walked, the familiar sight of the dojo came into view, but before he could reach the entrance, he heard someone calling his name. Naruto. Issei's voice rang out, full of energy and excitement. Naruto turned to see Issei jogging toward him, with Rias, Akino, Kiba, and Kaneko following close behind. Rias's usual confident demeanor was tinged with curiosity, while Akino's playful smile was in place, though her eyes betrayed a hint of concern. Kiba offered Naruto a friendly nod, and Kaneko's stoic expression remained unchanged as always. Naruto raised a hand in greeting, though his mood remained subdued. Hey, Issei, Rias, Akino, Kiba, Kaneko, what's up? Rias stepped forward, her gaze sharp yet kind. I heard about what happened with Sona. Are you alright? Naruto shrugged, trying to downplay the turmoil inside him. Yeah, I guess. Turns out I'm sort of a god. Still not sure what to make of it though. I mean, I feel the same, but sometimes it's like, Wukong can just take over, you know? Issei, ever the supportive friend, chimed in with enthusiasm. Man, I get it. I've got this weird thing too. Apparently, I'm the Red Dragon Emperor now. The title Emperor sent a jolt through Naruto's mind, triggering a wave of memories. Images of a grand palace, a towering figure draped in golden robes, and the oppressive weight of the Jade Emperor's gaze flooded his thoughts. He winced, shaking his head to clear the vision. Rias noticed his discomfort and took a step closer, her voice gentle. Naruto, are you okay? Naruto forced a smile, brushing off the memory. Yeah, just remembering some stuff from a long time ago. So, what's up anyway? You guys just out for a stroll? Rias was about to respond, but Issei beat her to it, his excitement bubbling over. We're gonna hunt a stray devil. You should totally come with us. Rias shot Issei a look that was equal parts exasperation and concern. Issei, we can't just… Issei grinned, clearly pleased with Naruto's decision. Awesome. You'll be fine, man. I mean, you beat that fallen angel to death without even trying. Naruto's smile faltered, his gaze dropping to the ground. Yeah, but I don't remember it. That wasn't me, Issei. That was Wukong. Issei's enthusiasm dimmed as he looked at Naruto, confusion evident on his face. But aren't you son Wukong? Naruto's shoulders slumped slightly, and he looked up with a small, forced smile. No, I'm not. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. The weight of his words hung in the air, and for a moment, there was silence as the group processed the depth of Naruto's struggle. He was caught between two identities, one that he had lived his whole life, and another that he was only beginning to understand. Rias, sensing the gravity of the moment, placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. You don't have to be anyone other than who you want to be, Naruto. We're here to support you, no matter what. Naruto's smile became a bit more genuine at her words. Thanks, Rias. That means a lot. With the tension slightly eased, Rias took the lead, guiding the group toward their destination. All right then, let's go. We have a stray devil to deal with. As the group made their way through the town, the atmosphere grew more focused. Naruto walked alongside Rias, Issei, Akino, Kiba, and Kaneko, his thoughts still swirling with the complexities of his identity. Despite his lingering doubts, he was determined to help his friends, even if he wasn't sure what role he was meant to play. The streets gradually became quieter as they moved toward a more secluded area on the outskirts of town. The sun had begun to set, casting long shadows across the buildings and giving the surroundings an eerie, almost otherworldly feel. Issei, always eager to learn, glanced over at Rias as they walked. So, what's the deal with this stray devil? Are they dangerous? Rias nodded, her expression serious. Stray devils are former members of a peerage who have gone rogue. They're dangerous because they no longer follow the rules of the underworld and often succumb to their darker impulses. This one has been causing trouble in the area, and it's our job to eliminate it before it hurts anyone else. Naruto listened carefully, absorbing the information. The idea of having to fight another being, one that was possibly once human, didn't sit well with him, but he understood the necessity. If this stray devil was a threat, it had to be dealt with. So, what do we know about this devil? Naruto asked, trying to get a better sense of the situation. Akino, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. This one was once part of a low-ranking peerage, but turned violent after being rejected by its master. It's been hiding out in an abandoned factory on the edge of town. Kiba added, these types of missions can be dangerous, but as long as we stay focused and work together, we should be able to handle it. Issei glanced at Naruto, his expression a mix of excitement and nervousness. Don't worry, man. We've got this. And with you here, it's like having an ace up our sleeve. Naruto couldn't help but chuckle at Issei's optimism, though his own doubts still lingered. Let's just focus on getting through this without anyone getting hurt. As they neared the factory, the air grew colder, and the sense of foreboding intensified. The building itself was a decrepit structure, long abandoned and forgotten by the world around it. Its broken windows and crumbling walls gave it an almost haunted appearance, as if it had been left to rot by time itself. Rias stopped just outside the entrance, her eyes narrowing as she sensed the dark energy emanating from within. This is it. Be on your guard, everyone. The group nodded, steeling themselves for the task ahead. Rias led the way, with Akino, Kiba, and Kaneko close behind. Issei followed, his usual bravado tempered by the seriousness of the mission. Naruto brought up the rear, his senses on high alert, ready for anything that might come their way. As they entered the factory, the darkness seemed to close in around them, the air thick with the scent of rust and decay. The faint sound of dripping water echoed through the halls, adding to the oppressive atmosphere. Rias motioned for the group to spread out as they moved deeper into the building. The tension was palpable, each step bringing them closer to their target. Naruto could feel his heart pounding in his chest, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the shadows, sending a shiver down Naruto's spine. The sound was inhuman, guttural, filled with a primal rage that sent chills through the group. "Stay sharp," Rias whispered, her voice barely audible. "It's close." They continued forward, their senses heightened as they prepared for the inevitable confrontation. The growling grew louder, closer, until finally, the source of the sound revealed itself. From the shadows emerged a figure that was both grotesque and bizarrely alluring. It was a woman at least. She had the vague appearance of one, but her body was twisted and monstrous. Her skin was pale, almost sickly, with dark veins visible beneath the surface. Her hair was disheveled, and her eyes glowed with a malevolent light. What stood out most, however, were her exposed balloons, which she seemed to display with a perverse sense of pride. Issei's eyes widened, his mouth hanging open as he stared at the sight before him. "Whoa, this is..." The creature Visser, a former devil who had gone rogue, smiled wickedly as she noticed Issei's reaction. "Oh, do you like what you see, boy?" she purred, her voice dripping with mockery. She lifted her hands to her chest, squeezing her balloons together provocatively. "I'm not shy about showing off what I've got." Naruto, on the other hand, was staring at her with a mixture of shock and disbelief. "Why is everyone just showing their tits around lately? Seriously, what is going on?" Visser giggled, clearly enjoying the attention she was receiving, but there was a dangerous glint in her eyes. "Oh, you poor innocent boys. Maybe I'll show you a little more if you survive." Before anyone could react, magic circles appeared around Visser's nipples, glowing with a sickly green light. A moment later, she fired streams of poisonous liquid directly from them, the venom spraying out with deadly precision. "Move!" Rias shouted, as the group scattered to avoid the attack. Naruto and the others leaped to the side, narrowly avoiding the poisonous spray as it sizzled against the floor, eating through the concrete with ease. Issei, having barely dodged the attack, looked at Visser in a mix of horror and regret. "This isn't the kind of porno I want to be in." Naruto, still trying to process the absurdity of the situation, shot him a look. "Issei, this isn't the time." Visser cackled, clearly enjoying their reactions. "Oh, don't worry, boys. There's plenty more where that came from." Kiba, who had kept his focus throughout the encounter, quickly positioned himself between Visser and the rest of the group. "We need to take her down now. She's not just toying with us, she's deadly." Kaneko nodded, her expression as serious as ever. "We can't let her attack again. Everyone, be careful." Rias stepped forward, her eyes narrowing as she prepared to unleash her own magic. "Visser, your time has come. We'll put an end to your twisted games right here." But Visser wasn't going to make it easy. She laughed maniacally as more magic circles appeared around her body, her poisonous attacks growing more erratic and dangerous. The group continued to dodge and weave, avoiding the deadly streams of venom as best they could. Naruto, trying to find an opening, felt a surge of frustration. This was nothing like the battles he had faced before, and the sheer absurdity of it all only added to his sense of disbelief. But he knew he had to push through, he had to help his friends, no matter how bizarre the situation had become. With a deep breath, Naruto focused, trying to tap into the power within him. He wasn't sure if it would work, or if Wukong would take over again, but he knew he had to try. Just as Visser prepared to launch another attack, Naruto's instincts kicked in. He moved with a speed that surprised even him, closing the distance between them in an instant. With a swift, decisive motion, he struck at the magic circles with a powerful kick, disrupting their energy and causing them to flicker and fade. Visser recoiled, her smug expression turning to one of shock and rage. "How dare you?" Naruto didn't stop. He pressed the attack, moving with a grace and precision that felt both familiar and foreign. Each strike disrupted Visser's magic, weakening her defenses and forcing her back. The others quickly joined in, taking advantage of the opening Naruto had created. Kiba slashed at Visser with his sword, each strike cutting through her corrupted flesh. Kaneko, with her incredible strength, delivered powerful blows that shook the very ground beneath them. Rias, seeing her opportunity, unleashed a devastating blast of demonic energy, the crimson light enveloping Visser and consuming her entirely. The stray devil's scream echoed through the factory as the energy tore through her, erasing her twisted form from existence. When the light finally faded, there was nothing left of Visser but a few wisps of smoke, quickly dissipating into the air. The group stood in silence for a moment, catching their breath and processing what had just happened. Issei was the first to speak, his voice shaky but filled with relief. Well, that was definitely something. Naruto, still trying to wrap his head around everything, let out a long breath. Yeah, something. Rias approached Naruto, her expression one of gratitude and concern. You did well, Naruto. Thank you for helping us. Naruto shrugged, though a small smile tugged at his lips. I'm just glad I could do something. That was intense. Kiba nodded in agreement, sheathing his sword. You were amazing, Naruto. You really stepped up when we needed you. Kaneko simply gave Naruto a thumb up, her way of showing appreciation. Issei, despite the chaotic situation, couldn't help but grin. Man, you really saved us back there. But seriously, what was with that devil? I've seen some weird stuff, but that was… Naruto chuckled, shaking his head. Let's just say I've had enough surprises for one day. Rias smiled at the group, her eyes filled with pride. We all did well. Let's head back, we've earned a break. After the intense encounter with the stray devil, the group made their way back to the Occult Research Club. The tension from the battle had mostly dissipated, replaced by a sense of camaraderie and relief. As they entered the familiar clubroom, the atmosphere was relaxed, but there was still an undercurrent of fatigue from the day's events. Kiba and Kaneko were the first to leave, each giving Naruto a nod of appreciation before heading out. As they departed, only Rias, Akino, Issei, and Naruto remained in the room. I think we all earned a little rest after that, Rias said, stretching gracefully, a satisfied smile on her face. Issei, however, was clearly distracted. His eyes followed Rias as she began to unbutton her uniform, preparing to take a shower in the adjacent room. Naruto didn't miss the way Issei's expression shifted to something far more lecherous, his imagination clearly running wild. I'm going to wash up, Rias said casually as she walked toward the shower room. Try to behave while I'm gone. As soon as Rias disappeared into the bathroom, Issei's mind seemed to fully embrace his fantasies. Shower. Rias bear, he muttered, practically drooling at the thought. Naruto, noticing Issei's behavior, sighed deeply and shook his head in disbelief. Why am I even friends with you? He muttered under his breath. Issei's perverted tendencies were nothing new, but they never failed to make Naruto question his friend's priorities. Akino, who had been watching the entire exchange with a playful glint in her eyes, decided to join in on the fun. With her usual grace, she moved closer to Naruto, a teasing smile on her lips. Naruto-kun, she purred, her voice dripping with a mix of seduction and amusement. You always seem so serious. Don't you ever relax? She leaned in closer, her ample chest brushing against his arm, causing Naruto's heart to skip a beat. Naruto stiffened, his mind suddenly flooded with conflicting thoughts. He tried to keep his eyes focused anywhere but on Akino, but the warmth of her body against his, the soft scent of her perfume, and the sight of her cleavage so close it was all becoming too much. I'm a teenager too. I have my own needs, Naruto thought, struggling to maintain his composure as he felt a rush of heat surge through his body. Akino's teasing continued as she leaned even closer, her lips just inches from his ear. You know, Naruto-kun, she whispered, her breath warm against his skin. You can always stay a little longer. We could have some fun. Naruto's resolve was rapidly crumbling. His eyes involuntarily flicked down to Akino's balloons, which were practically on display for him. His face flushed a deep red as he fought to control the primal urges that were threatening to take over. This isn't happening. This isn't happening, Naruto chanted in his mind. But Akino's proximity and the softness of her curves pressed against him were making it increasingly difficult to think straight. Akino giggled softly, clearly enjoying the effect she was having on him. What's the matter, Naruto-kun? You seem… distracted. Naruto's brain was practically short-circuiting at this point. He knew he had to get out of there before he did something he'd regret. With a sudden burst of willpower, he forced himself to take a step back, putting some much-needed distance between himself and Akino. I think it's time I leave as well," Naruto stammered, his voice slightly shaky as he tried to keep his cool. "I just remembered I have, something I need to take care of." Akino's smile widened, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "Are you sure, Naruto-kun? You don't have to leave so soon?" Naruto could feel his self-control slipping further, and he knew that if he stayed any longer, he might completely lose it. "Yeah, I'm sure. Goodbye," he blurted out, practically sprinting toward the door. Issei, still lost in his own perverted fantasies, barely noticed Naruto's hasty departure. But Akino watched him with a satisfied smile, her eyes following him until he disappeared through the door. As Naruto bolted out of the clubroom and down the hallway, his heart was pounding and his mind was racing. What the hell was that? He thought to himself, still trying to process everything that had just happened. He could still feel the warmth of Akino's body against his, the soft scent of her perfume lingering in his nostrils, and the image of her teasing smile burned. "I'm never going to get used to this," Naruto thought, shaking his head as he made his way toward the exit of the building. "I need to get home and clear my head." As he stepped out into the cool night air, Naruto let out a long breath, trying to calm his racing heart. The past few days had been filled with one crazy event after another, and he was starting to feel the strain. But despite everything, he knew he had to keep moving forward. There were still so many questions left unanswered, and he wasn't going to find those answers by running away. But for now, all he could think about was getting home and trying to forget the way Akino had made him feel, if only for a little while. As he got home, his thoughts still swirling from the encounter with Akino. The way she had teased him, the way her body had pressed against his, it was overwhelming. The warmth of her touch, the scent of her perfume, and the playful glint in her eyes had left him more rattled than he cared to admit. His mind replayed the scene over and over, amplifying the tension that had been building inside him all day. By the time he reached his apartment, Naruto was desperate for some way to clear his head. The tension in his body was unbearable, and he knew he needed to do something about it before he lost his mind completely. Without hesitation, Naruto headed straight for the bathroom. He turned on the shower, letting the water run until it was almost scalding, steam quickly filling the room. As he stripped off his clothes, he caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror. His face was still flushed, his eyes reflecting a mix of frustration, embarrassment, and something more primal. "Get it together, Naruto," he muttered to himself, shaking his head as if trying to dislodge the thoughts that clung to his mind. "You can't let yourself get so worked up over this." Stepping into the shower, Naruto let out a long sigh as the hot water cascaded over his body. The intense heat was exactly what he needed, enveloping him and beginning to ease the tension in his muscles. He leaned against the tiled wall, closing his eyes as he tried to let the water wash away the day's stress. But even as the water pounded down on him, his thoughts kept drifting back to Akino. The way she had leaned in so close, her breath warm against his skin, the softness of her curves pressing against him, it was impossible to forget. He could still hear her teasing voice, feel the heat of her body against his. Naruto groaned, frustration and desire mixing together in a confusing tangle. "I'm a teenager too," he thought. "I have my own needs, but I can't let this control me." He tried to focus on the soothing sensation of the water, letting it run over his body, but it wasn't enough. The desire, it gnawed at him, refusing to be ignored. Taking a shower wasn't just about getting clean. It was about trying to release the pin-up tension that had been building inside him all day, especially after Akino's teasing. As he stood under the spray, Naruto allowed his mind to wander, imagining for just a moment what it would have been like if he hadn't left the clubroom. If he had stayed, if he had given in to the temptation. But he quickly shook his head, trying to push those thoughts away. "No, I can't think like that. It's not who I am." Still, his body refused to calm down. The heat of the water did little to quench the fire that Akino had ignited within him. He ran his hands through his hair, trying to distract himself, but it wasn't working. The images, the sensations, they were too vivid, too real. Finally, Naruto gave in to the inevitable. With a resigned sigh, he let the water continue to pour over him, allowing himself the time he needed to take care of his needs, hoping it would help him find some semblance of peace. The shower seemed to stretch on for an eternity. Naruto focused on the heat, on the release, trying to rid himself of the tension that had built up. He lost track of time as he let the water and the steam work their magic, draining away the stress and frustration that had consumed him. When he finally stepped out of the shower, Naruto felt drained but calmer, the overwhelming tension finally subsiding. He wrapped a towel around his waist and stared at his reflection in the fogged-up mirror, taking a moment to collect his thoughts. "You're stronger than this," he told himself. "You've been through worse. You can handle this too." With that thought in mind, Naruto dried off and got dressed, determined to put the events of the day behind him. But as he lay down in bed, just another day in Kuo Town, Naruto thought with a rueful smile as he drifted asleep. The morning sun filtered through the curtains of Naruto's bedroom, casting a warm, golden light across the room. He stirred beneath the covers, groggy from a restless night. Despite his best efforts to clear his mind, the events of the previous day, Akino's teasing, the battle with the stray devil, and the strange memories that had surfaced had all conspired to keep him tossing and turning. With a groan, Naruto sat up, rubbing his eyes. He couldn't afford to be sluggish today. There were too many things he needed to figure out, too many unanswered questions swirling in his head. He knew he had to confront whatever was happening to him, even if he wasn't sure where to start. After a quick shower, thankfully far less eventful than the previous nights, Naruto dressed in his usual orange hoodie and jeans before heading out. The streets of Kuo Town were already bustling with activity as people went about their morning routines. Naruto blended into the crowd, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was different now, that something inside him had shifted. As he walked, Naruto's mind wandered back to his friends. Issei had been his usual perverted self, and while it was frustrating at times, Naruto appreciated the familiarity. Then there was Rias, always calm and composed, but with a warmth that made him feel like he was part of something important. And Akino, well, Akino was a whole other story. Her teasing had stirred something in him that he wasn't sure how to handle. "I can't keep avoiding this," Naruto thought as he approached the school gates. "I need to understand what's happening to me, and I need to figure out how to control it." The day at Kuo Academy began like any other, with students chatting in the halls and teachers preparing for their lessons. Naruto tried to focus on his classes, but his mind kept drifting back to the events of the past few days. It felt like he was caught between two worlds, the ordinary life he had always known and the strange, supernatural reality that was slowly revealing itself to him. During lunch, Naruto met up with Issei and their usual group of friends. As expected, Issei was full of energy, his thoughts already drifting to the next time he might get a glimpse of Rias or Akino. Naruto smiled at his friend's enthusiasm, but couldn't help but feel a pang of anxiety. He was still grappling with his identity, unsure of how to balance the ordinary with the extraordinary. "Yo, Naruto," Issei called out, breaking into his thoughts. "You seem a bit out of it today. Everything okay?" Naruto forced a smile, not wanting to worry his friend. "Yeah, just thinking about some stuff." Issei grinned, leaning in conspiratorially. "Thinking about Akino, huh? I saw the way she was messing with you yesterday. Can't say I blame you." "She's..." "Issei," Naruto interrupted, his cheeks flushing as he waved off the conversation. "It's not like that." Issei chuckled, clearly not convinced. Sure. Anyway, what's the plan for after school?" "I was thinking we could hang out at the club room." Naruto hesitated. The idea of spending more time in the club room, especially with Akino around, was both appealing and terrifying. But he knew he couldn't keep running from this. He needed to face whatever was happening to him head-on. "Yeah, I'll be there," Naruto finally said. "There's some stuff I need to figure out." Issei gave him a curious look, but didn't press further. "All right, sounds good. Maybe we'll get some more action like yesterday. Who knows what Rias has planned." As the school day came to an end, Naruto found himself walking to the occult research club with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. He knew that today would be important, that he couldn't keep avoiding the questions that had been building inside him. When he arrived at the club room, he found Rias, Akino, and Issei already there, along with Kiba and Kaneko. "Glad you could make it," Rias greeted him with a warm smile. "We were just about to discuss a new mission." Naruto nodded, taking a seat beside Issei. The room was filled with a quiet tension, the air heavy with anticipation. "We've received reports of another stray devil in the area," Rias began, her expression serious. "This one is particularly dangerous, and we'll need to be extra careful." Kiba leaned forward, his expression focused. "Do we know where it's hiding?" Rias nodded. "It's been spotted near an old warehouse on the outskirts of town. We'll need to move quickly before it causes any more damage." Akino's usual playful demeanor was replaced by a calm seriousness. "We should prepare ourselves. This one won't be easy." As the group discussed their strategy, Naruto couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. Something about this mission felt different, more dangerous than anything they had faced before. And deep down, he knew that his own unresolved issues could make things even more complicated. Suddenly, the windows of the clubroom shattered as a powerful force crashed through, sending shards of glass flying across the room. Everyone ducked instinctively as a tall, imposing figure landed in the center of the room, the remnants of the broken window scattered around him. The man was dressed in traditional Chinese armor, his long black hair tied back in a warrior's topknot. His eyes, cold and piercing, immediately locked onto Naruto. "Son Wukong," the man said, his voice deep and commanding. "I have finally found you." Naruto's heart skipped a beat as the memories of his past life as the Monkey King surged to the forefront of his mind. He recognized this man, Erlang Shun, the formidable god who had once been his rival. "Erlang Shun," Naruto whispered, unable to tear his eyes away from the god standing before him. The rest of the group tensed, sensing the danger in the room. Rias quickly stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. "Who are you, and what do you want with Naruto?" Erlang Shun shifted his gaze to Rias, a faint smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Well, if it isn't Surzex Lucifer's younger sister," he said, his tone almost mocking. "This is none of your concern, little devil." Before anyone could react, Erlang Shun moved with blinding speed, grabbing Naruto by the throat and lifting him off the ground effortlessly. Naruto gasped, struggling to breathe as Erlang's grip tightened around his neck. "Stop!" Rias shouted, her eyes blazing with anger as she began to summon her demonic power. But Erlang Shun merely glanced at her, unimpressed. "This is between me and the monkey. Stay out of it." With that, Erlang Shun leaped backward, crashing through the window he had just entered from, taking Naruto with him. The force of the impact sent them hurtling through the air, and before Naruto could even process what was happening, Erlang Shun threw him with incredible strength, sending him flying across the city. Naruto's body sailed through the air, the city below him a blur as he tried to regain control. He crashed through the roof of an abandoned building, the impact sending shockwaves through his body. Groaning in pain, Naruto struggled to his feet, his mind reeling from the sudden and violent encounter. What the hell just happened? Naruto thought, trying to catch his breath as he assessed his injuries. Erlang Shun's strength was overwhelming, and the ease with which he had manhandled Naruto made it clear that this was no ordinary opponent. Back at the clubroom, Rias and the others were left in stunned silence, the shattered window and the fading sound of the crash the only evidence of what had just transpired. Rias clenched her fists, her eyes filled with determination. "We need to find Naruto," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "We can't let this Erlang Shun do whatever he wants." The group quickly gathered their things, preparing to search the city for their friend. As they left the clubroom, Rias couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger conflict, one that would test all of them in ways they couldn't yet imagine. Naruto stood amidst the rubble of the abandoned building, his body aching from the impact. He could feel the power of the Monkey King stirring within him, but he still wasn't sure how to control it. He knew Erlang Shun wouldn't give him much time to figure it out. As if on cue, Erlang Shun appeared above the building, his eyes locked onto Naruto with a predatory intensity. He descended slowly, landing with the grace of a warrior who knew he held the upper hand. "You've grown weaker, son Wukong," Erlang Shun said, his voice filled with disdain. "Or perhaps you've forgotten who you really are." Naruto glared at him, his mind racing. He knew he couldn't win this fight by relying on brute strength alone. He needed to tap into the power of the Monkey King, but he had to do it on his terms. "I'm not the Monkey King anymore," Naruto said, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki." Just as Naruto tried to get up, Erlang Shun landed a powerful kick to Naruto's chest, sending him crashing into a wall. Naruto gasped in pain, struggling to push himself up. His vision blurred, his body screaming in agony, but he couldn't give up. "Not now. Is this all you've got?" Erlang Shun taunted, his voice dripping with disdain. "Pathetic. You're not even worth the effort." Naruto gritted his teeth, anger and frustration boiling within him. "I'm not done yet. I can't be." But as much as he willed his body to move, it refused to respond. As Erlang Shun approached, his spear raised for the final blow, something inside Naruto snapped. The world around him faded, and he was suddenly plunged into darkness, the sounds of the battle disappearing as if they were never there. Naruto found himself standing in a vast, empty void. The darkness was oppressive, but in the distance, he saw a faint light. Driven by an instinct he couldn't explain, Naruto walked toward it. As he got closer, the light revealed a figure, chained to the ground, its back hunched, hair wild and untamed. The figure slowly looked up, and Naruto was met with a pair of blazing red eyes that seemed to burn through the darkness. The figure was him but different. This version of Naruto looked more primal, more beast-like. His hair was wild, his features sharper, and there was an aura of power around him that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. "Are you son Wukong?" Naruto asked, his voice echoing in the void. The chained figure chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that sent shivers down Naruto's spine. Yes and no. We are both Wukong, from different times. The title carries on, passed from one to the next. Naruto took a step closer, feeling the pull of that power. I need your help. I need your power. The other Naruto, Wukong smirked, the red glow in his eyes intensifying. It's not my power you seek. I am merely the gatekeeper, a fragment of what you are destined to become. You won't gain access to the full power until you reclaim your memories. Then how do I do that? Naruto demanded, desperation creeping into his voice. Wukong's gaze softened slightly, as if seeing the struggle in Naruto's eyes. Find the gourd. It's the key to unlocking your mind. Only then will you truly understand what you are capable of. Naruto frowned, trying to make sense of it all. The gourd. Where do I find it? Wukong shook his head. That is something you must discover on your own. But for now, you need to focus on the battle at hand. Erlang Shan is testing you, to see if you pose a threat once more. Naruto clenched his fists, his frustration mounting. I don't have time for this. How do I beat him? Wukong's smirk returned, more feral this time. As you are now, it's impossible. But Erlang Shan is bound by his loyalty to the Jade Emperor. He will always follow the Emperor like a dog. Naruto's eyes narrowed. I don't care about the Emperor. I need to protect my friends, and I need to stop Erlang. Now. Wukong sighed, his chains rattling as he shifted. Fine. If you want to stop him, you need to prove that you won't attack the heavens again. But simply not fighting won't work. You must demonstrate control, strength, and resolve. Naruto nodded, determination burning in his chest. How? Wukong's voice became firm, almost commanding. Call for your staff. Stop being afraid of your power. This power is yours alone now, Naruto Uzumaki. You must stop holding yourself back. Naruto's breath caught in his throat as the truth of Wukong's words hit him. He had been afraid of what the power might do to him, afraid of becoming someone else. But now he realized that this power was a part of him, not something to be feared but something to be embraced. Stop holding yourself back, Naruto Uzumaki, Wukong repeated, his voice echoing through the void. With a surge of resolve, Naruto felt the darkness around him begin to fade. The void shattered, and the world of reality came rushing back in. The sounds of the city, the weight of the battle, all of it returned in an instant. Naruto lay on the ground, his body aching from the beating he had taken. Erlang Shan stood over him, ready to deliver the final blow. But something had changed. Naruto no longer felt fear or hesitation. He knew what he had to do. He slowly pushed himself up, his eyes locking onto the sky above. Come, he whispered, his voice filled with newfound confidence. Rui Jingu bang. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the air around them crackled with energy as something powerful surged through the atmosphere. The sound of something crashing through the sky echoed across the city, growing louder and louder until, with a deafening roar, the legendary staff Rui Jingu Bang hurtled down from the heavens, straight into Naruto's outstretched hand. The instant the staff made contact with Naruto, a surge of lightning shot through the sky, striking the ground around them. Naruto's body was engulfed in a blinding light, and when it faded, he stood transformed. His eyes now glowed a vibrant blue, with golden pupils that burned with power. A white loop of binding circled his head, a symbol of his restraint and control over his immense strength. Erlang Shan's eyes narrowed, a flicker of recognition in his gaze. I was wondering when Wukong would arrive. Naruto tightened his grip on the staff, its weight familiar in his hands. But he wasn't Wukong, not the way Erlang Shan believed. He was someone different, someone new. No, Naruto said firmly, his voice steady and strong. I'm not Wukong. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. With a swift motion, Naruto pointed his staff at Erlang Shan. Grow, Jingu Bang. The staff responded instantly, shooting forward and expanding in size as it surged toward Erlang Shan. The god barely had time to react before the staff struck him with a force that sent him staggering backward. But Naruto wasn't done. As the staff continued to grow, Naruto ran alongside it, his movements fluid and precise. He leaped into the air, using the momentum to strike Erlang Shan directly in the face with a powerful blow. The impact sent Erlang Shan crashing into the ground, the force of the strike reverberating through the city. Across town, Rias and her peerage, who had been searching for Naruto, spotted the towering staff in the distance. The sight of the legendary weapon, combined with the crackling energy that filled the air, left them momentarily speechless. That's... Issei began, his eyes wide with shock. Rias stared at the distant battle, her heart racing. Naruto? Back at the battlefield, Naruto stood over the fallen Erlang Shan, his staff in hand. He knew the fight wasn't over, but he also knew that he had proven something important. both to Erlang Shen and to himself. Erlang Shen slowly pushed himself up, his eyes filled with a mixture of anger and something else, perhaps respect. You've changed, Naruto Uzumaki. But remember this, the heavens will always watch you. You will always be under their scrutiny. Naruto nodded, his grip on the staff tightening. I'm not afraid of them. I'll protect my friends and my world, no matter what. With that, Erlang Shen stood, his expression unreadable. We will meet again, Naruto Uzumaki. And when we do, the heavens will have their answer. With a final glance at Naruto, Erlang Shen turned and leaped into the sky, disappearing from sight. The battle was over, but Naruto knew that this was only the beginning. As he stood there, the staff in his hand, Naruto felt a sense of clarity he hadn't experienced before. He was no longer just Naruto Uzumaki, but he wasn't Wukong either. He was something new, something powerful, and he was ready to face whatever came next. Naruto stood in the middle of the devastated battlefield, his breath heavy, the weight of the Rui Jingu Bang still resting in his hand. The white loop of binding around his head pulsed faintly, a reminder of the power he now wielded. Yet it was a power he was still learning to control. The fight with Erlang Shen had been a revelation, not just of his own abilities, but of the challenges that lay ahead. As the dust settled, Naruto looked around at the wreckage caused by their battle. The abandoned building was in ruins, its walls crumbled, and the ground was littered with debris. The sheer force of their fight had left its mark on the city, and Naruto couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. He hadn't asked for this power, this responsibility, but it was his now, and he had to learn how to handle it without causing more harm. With a deep breath, Naruto willed the Rui Jingu Bang to shrink back to its original size. The staff obeyed, returning to a more manageable length, and Naruto slid it behind him, securing it in place. The loop of binding around his head flickered before fading from view, leaving Naruto looking more like himself, at least on the outside. But inside, he knew he had changed. He was no longer just Naruto Uzumaki, the carefree boy who loved ramen and pranks. He was something more now, someone who had a connection to the legendary Monkey King, yet was still his own person. Naruto took one last look at the battleground before turning to head back to the Occult Research Club. He had to regroup with his friends, explain what had happened, and most importantly, reassure them that he was still the Naruto they knew. As he made his way through the city, Naruto couldn't help but notice the strange looks he was getting from passers-by. Some seemed frightened, others curious, but all were aware that something significant had occurred. Naruto tried to ignore the stares, focusing instead on getting back to the clubroom. He knew he had a lot to explain, and he wasn't sure how much they would understand. The door to the Occult Research Club burst open as Naruto walked in, his face a mixture of relief and exhaustion. Rias, Akino, Issei, Kiba, and Kaneko were already there, their expressions ranging from concern to outright shock. Naruto. Issei was the first to speak, rushing over to his friend. Are you okay? What the hell happened out there? Naruto gave him a tired smile, trying to lighten the mood. Yeah, I'm okay. Just had a bit of a run-in with an old acquaintance. Ria stepped forward, her eyes filled with both relief and curiosity. Erlang Shen. I've heard of him, but I never expected to see him here, in Kuo Town. Naruto nodded, taking a seat as the weight of everything that had happened finally hit him. He's testing me, to see if I'm a threat to the heavens. He thinks I'm still the Monkey King. The room fell silent as the gravity of Naruto's words sank in. Akino, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. And are you? Are you still the Monkey King? Naruto looked down at his hands, the memory of the staff's weight still fresh in his mind. I don't know. I'm starting to remember things, bits and pieces of a life that isn't mine, but somehow is. But I'm not the same person. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, and I have to figure out how to be both. Kiba, always the voice of reason, placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. You don't have to figure it out alone. We're here for you, no matter what. Kaneko nodded in agreement, her usual stoic expression softening slightly. We'll help you, Naruto, just like you've helped us. Naruto felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. Despite everything, his friends were still by his side, ready to support him through whatever challenges lay ahead. It was a comforting thought, especially given the uncertainty of his situation. Rias, however, seemed deep in thought. Erlang Shen won't be the last one to come after you, she said, her voice calm but serious. If the heavens are watching, then others will come. You need to be prepared. Naruto nodded, fully aware of what that meant. I know, but I'm not going to let them control my life. I'll fight if I have to, but I'll do it on my terms. Rias smiled, her respect for Naruto clear in her eyes. That's the Naruto we know. We'll stand by you, no matter what. The atmosphere in the room lightened slightly, the tension easing as they all shared a moment of solidarity. But the reality of the situation was still there, looming over them like a dark cloud. They all knew that this was just the beginning. As the afternoon turned to evening, the group continued to discuss their plans. Rias outlined a strategy for dealing with future threats, focusing on strengthening their defenses and gathering information about potential enemies. Akino and Kiba offered their insights, while Kaneko remained quiet, her focus on keeping an eye on Naruto. Issei, despite his usual goofy demeanor, was unusually serious. So, what do we do if more gods show up? We can't exactly take on the heavens, can we? Rias shook her head. We don't need to take on the heavens. Our goal is to protect Kuo Town and its people. If the gods see us as a threat, we need to show them that we're not their enemies. But we also need to be ready to defend ourselves. Naruto listened carefully, absorbing their words. He knew they were right, but a part of him still felt uneasy. The encounter with Erlang Shun had left a mark, both physically and mentally. He could still feel the weight of the staff in his hand, the surge of power that had coursed through him. It was intoxicating, but also terrifying. He didn't want to lose himself to that power, but he knew that if he was going to protect his friends, he couldn't be afraid to use it. As the meeting came to an end, Naruto found himself alone in the clubroom, the others having left to take care of their own tasks. He stared out the window, lost in thought. The city lights flickered in the distance, a reminder that life continued on, even in the midst of chaos. Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed in his mind, breaking through his thoughts. You did well today, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto stiffened, recognizing the voice as Wukong's, the other part of him that still lingered in the depths of his consciousness. Wukong, Naruto whispered, his eyes narrowing as he spoke to the presence within him. What do you want? I'm here to help you, whether you like it or not. Wukong's voice was calm, almost amused. We're in this together. The more you remember, the stronger we become. Naruto clenched his fists, conflicted by the duality within him. I don't want to be just Wukong. I'm Naruto. I have my own life, my own friends. I won't let this power take over. Wukong's laughter echoed through Naruto's mind. You're stronger than you think, but you have to stop being afraid. Embrace the power and make it yours. That's the only way to survive what's coming. Naruto felt a surge of defiance rise within him. I'll use this power, but I'll do it my way. I won't let anyone, gods or otherwise, dictate who I am. Good, Wukong replied, the amusement in his voice fading. Just remember, the path ahead is dangerous. You'll need all the strength you can muster. With that, the presence in Naruto's mind faded, leaving him alone once more. But this time, he felt a little more in control, a little more confident in his ability to handle what lay ahead. As he stood there, looking out at the city, Naruto knew that the battle with Erlang Shun had been just the beginning. There would be more challenges, more enemies, but he wasn't alone. He had his friends, his own strength, and the legacy of the Monkey King within him. Far from the earthly realm of Kuo Town, high above in the celestial heavens, the Jade Palace gleamed with an ethereal light, surrounded by a sea of clouds. The palace, a magnificent structure of gold and jade, stood as a symbol of divine authority and power. Within its grand halls, the Jade Emperor, ruler of the heavens, sat upon his ornate throne, his expression as inscrutable as ever. Before him knelt Erlang Shun, the formidable god who had just returned from his mission to observe the reincarnated Wukong. His armor was still slightly battered from the battle, but he showed no sign of fatigue as he bowed his head in deference. My emperor, Erlang Shun began, his voice steady and respectful. I have returned from my mission to Kuo Town. The Jade Emperor, a figure of immense power and wisdom, looked down at his loyal warrior. His expression remained unreadable, but his eyes held a deep, calculating gaze. Speak, Erlang Shun. What did you discover? Erlang Shun took a breath before answering. The rumors are true. The Monkey King, or rather, his reincarnation, has indeed returned. He now goes by the name Naruto Uzumaki. There was a murmur of interest among the divine beings who were present in the hall, but the Jade Emperor remained silent, waiting for more. This Naruto Uzumaki, Erlang continued, is not like the Wukong we remember. He is young, inexperienced, and unaware of the full extent of his powers. However, there is something peculiar about him. The Jade Emperor raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Peculiar, you say? Elaborate. Erlang Shun's expression grew more serious. The boy bears the loop of binding on his head, the very same that was crafted by the supreme god Buddha himself to restrain the original Wukong. It seems that the boy's powers are beginning to awaken, but they are still dormant, underdeveloped. A ripple of unease spread through the divine court at the mention of the loop of binding, a powerful artifact that had once been the key to controlling the rebellious Monkey King. The Jade Emperor, however, remained composed, though his eyes narrowed slightly. So, The Supreme God Buddha has taken an interest in this boy, the Jade Emperor mused. And yet, he is different from the Wukong we knew. How so? Erlang Shen hesitated for a moment, choosing his words carefully. He is kinder, more compassionate. He is fiercely loyal to his friends and seems more concerned with protecting them than causing trouble. But make no mistake, he is still dangerous. His powers are only beginning to surface, and we have yet to see their true extent. The Jade Emperor leaned back on his throne, deep in thought. The return of the Monkey King, even in a new form, was not something to be taken lightly. Wukong had been a thorn in the side of the heavens for centuries, his rebellious nature and immense power causing endless strife. Even if this Naruto Uzumaki was different, the potential for chaos remained. And what of the devils? The Jade Emperor asked, his tone betraying a hint of disdain. Erlang Shen's expression darkened. The boy has allied himself with them. He is under the protection of a devil named Rias Gremory, the younger sister of Serzex Lucifer. The mention of the Gremory name caused another stir among the gathered deities. The Jade Emperor's eyes flickered with recognition. The Gremory clan. They are powerful, and they have their own agenda. This alliance complicates matters. Erlang Shen nodded. Indeed, my emperor. The devils will not easily relinquish their hold on the boy. They will likely protect him, even if it means defying the heavens. The Jade Emperor's expression hardened. The idea of the Monkey King, even in a new incarnation, aligning himself with devils was unacceptable. The potential for disruption was too great, and the heavens had avoided direct confrontation with the other supernatural factions for far too long. This Naruto Uzumaki must be watched closely, the Jade Emperor declared, his voice cold and resolute. His powers are dormant now, but if they awaken fully, he could become as dangerous as the Wukong of old. Erlang Shen bowed his head. Yes, my emperor. I will continue to monitor him. But the Jade Emperor wasn't satisfied with mere observation. He knew that the threat Wukong posed could not be underestimated. If Naruto Uzumaki were to become a true reincarnation of the Monkey King, the consequences could be dire. No, the Jade Emperor said, his voice carrying the weight of his authority. We cannot simply watch and wait. Make it known to the world who this boy is. Let it be known that the Monkey King has returned in a new form. Erlang Shen's eyes widened slightly in surprise. You wish to reveal his identity to the world? The Jade Emperor nodded, his gaze steely. Yes, the boy's identity will not remain a secret. Let Wukong's old enemies know that he has returned. Let them come seeking revenge, and let them be the ones to test his strength. If he is truly a threat, they will eliminate him before he can become a danger to the heavens. Erlang Shen hesitated for a moment, but he knew better than to question the Emperor's orders. As you command, my Emperor. The Jade Emperor's expression remained unchanged, but there was a cold satisfaction in his eyes. He had no intention of allowing the Monkey King to rise again, especially not under the influence of devils. If Naruto Uzumaki was truly Wukong reborn, then the heavens would make sure he faced the full force of the enemies he had made over the centuries. Go, the Jade Emperor commanded. Ensure that the world knows of this boy's existence. Let the consequences of his past life be his burden to bear. Erlang Shen bowed deeply before rising to his feet. It will be done. As Erlang Shen left the Jade Palace to carry out his orders, the Jade Emperor remained seated on his throne, his mind already turning to the implications of what was to come. The return of the Monkey King, even in a new form, was a potential disaster. But if the boy could be eliminated before he reached his full potential, then perhaps the heavens could avoid another era of chaos. And if Naruto Uzumaki survived the trials that awaited him, well, then the heavens would deal with him accordingly. Far below, in the mortal realm, Naruto had no idea that his existence had just been made known to the supernatural world. As he continued his daily life in Kuo Town, unaware of the storm brewing around him, the seeds of conflict were being sown. Enemies, old and new, would soon be drawn to him, each seeking their own form of justice or revenge. The revelation of his identity would change everything, and Naruto would find himself at the center of a conflict far greater than anything he had ever imagined. But for now, he remained blissfully unaware, focusing on his training, his friends, and the mysteries of his own past. The challenges ahead were daunting, but Naruto was determined to face them head-on, just as he had always done. However, the world was about to change for Naruto Uzumaki, and the legacy of son Wukong would soon become a burden he could no longer ignore. The next day, at the Occult Research Club, Ria sat at the head of the room, a stack of papers in front of her. The atmosphere was relaxed, but there was an underlying sense of seriousness as Rias prepared to explain an essential part of being a devil to her new recruit. Issei sat across from Rias, his eyes wide with curiosity and perhaps a hint of confusion. Naruto was there as well, though he was more focused on his own thoughts, still processing everything that had happened recently. Kiba, Akino, and Kaneko were also present, quietly observing the exchange. Issei, Rias began, her tone gentle but firm. There's something important you need to understand about being a devil. As part of my peerage, you have certain responsibilities, and one of the most fundamental duties is fulfilling contracts. Issei blinked, his confusion evident. Contracts? You mean like signing papers and stuff? Rias smiled patiently. Not exactly. As devils, we offer our services to humans in exchange for their desires. These contracts are what help us gain power and influence in the human world. The more successful contracts you fulfill, the more you'll rise through the ranks as a devil. Issei's eyes lit up with a mix of interest and skepticism. So, I just have to help people out and I get stronger? That sounds easy? Kaneko, sitting quietly in the corner, rolled her eyes slightly, but didn't say anything. Kiba, on the other hand, leaned forward, adding to Rias's explanation. It's not always as simple as it sounds. Some contracts can be challenging, depending on what the client wants. And not all humans have the same level of belief or trust in devils, so convincing them to make a deal can be difficult. Rias nodded in agreement. Exactly. You'll be summoned by clients, and it's your job to fulfill their wishes to the best of your ability. It's also an opportunity for you to practice using your powers in real-world situations. Issei groaned, slumping in his chair. That sounds like a lot of work. And what if the client asks for something crazy? Akino chuckled softly. That's where your creativity comes in, Issei-kun. Sometimes, the request can be interesting, but it's all part of the experience. Issei sighed, clearly not thrilled with the prospect. Man, this blows. I was hoping being a devil would be all about cool powers and hot girls. Naruto, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke up with a smirk. Well, I'm not a devil, so I guess I don't have to worry about contracts. You're on your own with this one, Issei. Issei's expression brightened slightly as an idea struck him. Hey, maybe Naruto can come with me. I mean, you're not a devil, but you could still help out, right? You're pretty strong. Rias shook her head before Naruto could respond. While it's nice having Naruto around, he's not a true member of my peerage. Devil contracts are strictly for devils to fulfill. Naruto's presence could complicate things, especially since humans can sense the difference between a devil and someone different. Naruto chuckled, raising his hands in a gesture of mock surrender. Yeah, no thanks, Issei. I've got enough on my plate without getting involved in devil business. Besides, you're the one who signed up for this gig. Issei sighed dramatically, slumping even further in his chair. Great, just great. First I have to fight stray devils, and now I have to do paperwork? This devil thing is turning out to be a lot more work than I thought. Rias smiled sympathetically, but her tone remained firm. I know it seems overwhelming now, but it's an important part of your growth as a devil. The more contracts you fulfill, the more you'll learn about your powers and how to use them effectively. And remember, you're not alone in this. We're all here to help you if you need it. Kiba nodded in agreement. And it's not all bad, Issei. Some contracts can be pretty interesting. You'll meet all kinds of people, and it's a good way to practice your negotiation skills. Akino leaned in, her eyes twinkling mischievously. And who knows? Maybe one of those contracts will lead to a meeting with a beautiful girl. Isn't that what you're really after? Issei perked up at that, a grin slowly spreading across his face. You know, when you put it that way, maybe this won't be so bad after all. Naruto shook his head, laughing at his friend's sudden change in attitude. You're hopeless, Issei. Rias, pleased to see Issei's spirits lifting, handed him a small stack of papers. These are some basic guidelines to help you get started. Your first client should be summoning you soon, so make sure you're ready. And remember, Issei, this is just the beginning. As you grow stronger, your responsibilities will increase, and so will your rewards. Issei took the papers with a determined nod, a new sense of resolve in his eyes. All right, I'll do my best, Rias. I won't let you down. Rias smiled warmly. I know you won't, Issei. As the meeting wrapped up, Issei gathered his things, preparing for his first official devil contract. Naruto watched him with a mixture of amusement and concern. Issei's enthusiasm was admirable, but Naruto couldn't help but worry about the challenges his friend would face. The supernatural world was full of dangers, and Issei was still new to it all. Are you sure you're ready for this, Issei? Naruto asked as they headed toward the door. It's not going to be easy. Issei grinned, giving Naruto a thumbs up. Don't worry, Naruto. I've got this. Besides, I'm not alone. I've got Rias and the others to help me out. And who knows? Maybe I'll meet someone cute while I'm at it. Naruto chuckled, shaking his head. Just be careful, all right? This world is a lot more dangerous than it looks. Issei nodded, his expression turning serious for a moment. Yeah, I know. but I'm not backing down. I'll do whatever it takes to get stronger and protect the people I care about. Naruto smiled, clapping a hand on Issei's shoulder. That's the spirit. Just don't forget if you ever need help, I'm here. Issei's grin returned, full of confidence. Thanks, Naruto. I'll keep that in mind. As Issei left to begin his new journey as a devil, Naruto lingered in the clubroom, lost in thought. Rias noticed his pensive expression and approached him, her eyes filled with understanding. You're worried about him, aren't you? She asked softly. Naruto nodded. Yeah, I know he's strong, but this world, it's different from what we're used to. I just don't want him to get hurt. Rias smiled gently. Issei will be fine. He's determined, and he has a good heart. And like you said, he's not alone. We'll all be here to support him. Naruto sighed, running a hand through his hair. I guess you're right. I just wish I could do more. Rias placed a reassuring hand on his arm. You're doing plenty, Naruto. You've already helped Issei more than you realize. Just by being here, by being his friend, you're giving him the strength he needs to face whatever comes his way. Naruto looked at Rias, seeing the sincerity in her eyes. He knew she was right, but the sense of responsibility he felt for his friends was hard to shake. Still, he nodded, accepting her words. Thanks, Rias. I'll do my best to support him. Rias smiled, her eyes twinkling with warmth. I know you will. And remember, you're not alone either. We're all in this together. Naruto returned her smile, feeling a little more at ease. Yeah, together. As they left the clubroom, Naruto couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. Naruto walked through the quiet streets of Kuo Town, the evening air cool against his skin. The events of the day weighed on his mind, but for now, he was alone with his thoughts, a rare moment of peace in the whirlwind of his life. As he made his way home, his thoughts drifted inward, and once again, he found himself in that dark, empty void where Wukong resided. The space was just as he remembered it, endless, oppressive darkness, with only the faintest glow in the distance. And there, in the center of it all, chained and hunched over, was Wukong. His wild hair and beast-like appearance were a stark contrast to Naruto's own more human form. As Naruto approached, Wukong slowly raised his head, his blazing red eyes locking onto Naruto's vivid blue ones. Naruto hesitated for a moment before speaking. Why are your eyes red? He asked, curiosity and concern lacing his voice. Wukong chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that seemed to echo through the void. When you spend 49 days in a furnace, it does things to you, he replied, his tone almost amused by Naruto's question. Naruto frowned, trying to grasp the meaning behind Wukong's words. I don't remember that. I don't remember much at all, honestly. Wukong's smirk faded, replaced by a more serious expression. You won't remember much until you get the gourd back. It's the key to unlocking everything, the memories, the power, everything that makes you who you are, or who you were. Naruto sighed, running a hand through his hair in frustration. And how am I supposed to find it? I don't even know where to start. Wukong's red eyes gleamed with a mix of smugness and mischief. How should I know? It's been a long time since I was alive. The world has changed, and so have you. This isn't the same world I left behind. Naruto rolled his eyes, his frustration growing. That's just great. So I'm supposed to figure all of this out on my own? Wukong's expression softened slightly, the smugness giving way to something more contemplative. You're not alone, Naruto. You've got your friends, your allies. They may not understand everything, but they'll help you. And remember, you're not just trying to become who I was, you're becoming something new, something better. Before Naruto could respond, Wukong's expression suddenly shifted to one of alertness. His red eyes narrowed, and he seemed to tense against his chains. Something's coming. Naruto felt a jolt in his chest as Wukong's warning reverberated through his mind. The void around him began to dissolve, and in an instant, he was pulled back to reality, his senses on high alert. The peaceful walk home was suddenly filled with a sense of foreboding, the air thick with tension. As Naruto's vision cleared, he found himself face to face with a boy who seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. The boy's appearance was strikingly familiar: red hair, sharp features, and a devilish grin that sent a shiver down Naruto's spine. It was as if he had stepped out of Naruto's memories and into the real world. The boy's eyes gleamed with recognition, and his grin widened as he spoke the words Naruto had heard in his mind before. Found you. Naruto's heart raced as he stared at the boy before him. There was something unsettlingly familiar about him, something that tugged at the edges of his memory, yet remained just out of reach. But the hatred in the boy's eyes was unmistakable. This was no casual encounter. The boy took a step closer, his grin twisted into something darker, more malevolent. It's been a long time, hasn't it, Wukong? Naruto's eyes narrowed, instinctively taking a defensive stance. I'm not Wukong, he said firmly, though the words felt hollow even to him. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. The boy's grin widened, but there was no humor in it, only bitterness and rage. Maybe you've forgotten, but I haven't. I remember everything. I remember what you did, how you humiliated me, how you destroyed my life, and now you're going to pay. Naruto felt a cold sweat break out on the back of his neck. The boy's words were filled with a deep, burning hatred that made Naruto's skin crawl. Who are you? He demanded, trying to keep his voice steady. The boy's eyes flared with fury. You really don't remember, do you? Of course, you wouldn't. You always were too arrogant to care about the people you hurt. But I remember you, Wukong. I remember how you destroyed everything I had. How you mocked me in front of everyone. Naruto's mind raced, trying to piece together what the boy was saying. The memories were fragmented, disjointed, but there was something there, a vague recollection of a past confrontation, a journey, and a boy who had been wronged. The boy sneered, his hands clenching into fists. You don't even know who I am, do you? Pathetic. But that's fine, I'll make sure you never forget again. Before Naruto could react, the boy lunged at him with a speed that caught Naruto off guard. There was no hesitation in his movements, only raw, unfiltered rage. Naruto barely had time to dodge, instinctively reaching for the Rui Jingu Bang. The staff materialized in his hand just in time to block the boy's attack, the force of the impact sending a shockwave through the air. The boy laughed, but it was a cold, bitter sound. That's more like it. Let's see if you've still got that fire in you, Wukong. Or have you become as weak as the mortals you've chosen to protect? Naruto gritted his teeth, pushing back against the boy's assault. He could feel the power of Wukong surging within him, but it was still raw, untamed. He hadn't yet learned to fully control it, and the boy seemed to know that. As the two clashed, more memories began to flood Naruto's mind, fragmented images of battles fought long ago, of a journey that had tested him in ways he could barely comprehend. And there, in the midst of those memories, was the boy, his anger, his humiliation, his desire for revenge. You're the red boy, Naruto whispered, the realization dawning on him as the pieces fell into place. The red boy, son of the Bull Demon King and Princess Iron Fan, had been one of Wukong's adversaries during the journey to the west, a proud, powerful demon who had been bested and humiliated by the Monkey King. The red boy's eyes blazed with hatred. So you do remember. Good. Then you'll know exactly why I'm here, to finish what you started. The ferocity of the red boy's attacks intensified, each blow fueled by his deep-seated desire for revenge. Naruto struggled to keep up, the memories of Wukong's past overwhelming him. He had been a different person than, reckless, arrogant, and often cruel to those who stood in his way. But he wasn't that person anymore. He was Naruto Uzumaki, and he wasn't going to let the past define him. The red boy's assault was relentless, and Naruto could feel himself being pushed to the brink. The power of Wukong was there, just beneath the surface, but it was still beyond his control. He needed to find a way to harness it, to use it on his own terms. Why do you hate him so much? Naruto shouted, trying to break through the red boy's fury. What did Wukong do to you? The red boy's response was a roar of anger. You humiliated me. You made a fool of me in front of my parents, my people. You took everything from me, and now I'm going to take everything from you. Naruto gritted his teeth, dodging another powerful strike. I'm not Wukong. I didn't do those things. The red boy's eyes narrowed, his expression one of pure malice. It doesn't matter. You're Wukong now, and you'll pay for what he did. Naruto felt a surge of desperation. He couldn't let the red boy's hatred consume him, couldn't let the mistakes of Wukong's past define his future. He needed to end this fight, but he didn't want to destroy the red boy. He wanted to find a way to make peace, to break the cycle of revenge. With a shout, Naruto channeled every ounce of his strength into a powerful swing of the Rui Jingu Bang, sending the red boy crashing to the ground. Naruto stood over him, his breath heavy, his heart pounding in his chest. The red boy lay there for a moment, his expression twisted with pain and rage. But then, to Naruto's surprise, the red boy laughed a bitter, almost despairing sound. Not bad, Naruto Uzumaki, the red boy said, a hint of begrudging respect in his voice. You're not Wukong, but you're still someone worth hating. Naruto frowned, unsure of how to respond. I don't want to fight you, he said, his voice firm but laced with a plea for understanding. I'm not the Wukong you remember. I'm different now. I don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past. The red boy slowly pushed himself up, wincing as he wiped a trail of blood from the corner of his mouth. His eyes, though filled with a burning rage, showed a flicker of something else, confusion, perhaps even doubt. But the bitterness that had festered within him for so long wouldn't allow him to accept Naruto's words so easily. Different, the red boy spat, his voice dripping with disdain. You think you can just shrug off your past, Pretend that you're someone else, and that everything will be fine? You may not remember everything, but you are still Wukong. That power, that arrogance, it's still there, buried inside you. Naruto shook his head, his grip on the Rui Jingu Bang tightening. I'm not trying to deny the past, but I won't let it define who I am now. I've changed, and I'm trying to make up for the wrongs I've done, even if I don't remember them all. The red boy sneered, his eyes narrowing with anger. Make up for it? You think you can just apologize and make everything right? You destroyed my life, humiliated me, and now you want to play the hero? It doesn't work that way, Wukong. Naruto felt a pang of guilt and frustration. He knew that words alone wouldn't be enough to reach the red boy, not when his hatred had festered for so long. But he also knew that continuing this fight would only deepen the wounds of the past. There's more to being strong than just fighting, Naruto said, his voice calm but resolute. I don't want to keep fighting you. I want to find a way to make things right. The red boy's expression twisted with anger, but there was a glimmer of uncertainty in his eyes. He was torn between his desire for revenge and the unexpected sincerity in Naruto's words. For a moment, it seemed as though he might relent, might allow a conversation to replace the violence. But then the memories of his humiliation, of his pride being shattered, surged back with a vengeance. His hatred reignited, stronger than ever. No! The red boy roared, the ground beneath him trembling with the force of his fury. You don't get to decide how this ends. I've waited centuries for this moment, and I won't let you take it away from me. With a cry of rage, the red boy unleashed a torrent of flames from his hands, the intense heat distorting the air around them. The flames shot toward Naruto with terrifying speed, fueled by the red boy's overwhelming anger and desire for vengeance. Naruto reacted instinctively, summoning the power of the Rui Jingu Bang to deflect the flames. The staff glowed with a golden light as it absorbed the fire, protecting Naruto from the inferno. But the sheer force of the red boy's attack pushed Naruto back, his feet skidding across the ground as he struggled to maintain his footing. The red boy's attack was relentless, the flames growing hotter and more intense with each passing second. Naruto could feel the strain of holding back the onslaught, his arms trembling as he gripped the staff. But even as the flames threatened to consume him, Naruto refused to give in. Red boy, stop this! Naruto shouted, his voice carrying over the roar of the flames. This isn't the way to make things right. The red boy's eyes burned with fury as he continued his assault, his hatred blinding him to Naruto's words. There's nothing left to make right. You took everything from me, and now I'm going to take everything from you. Naruto could feel the weight of the Rui Jingu Bang in his hands, the power within it yearning to be unleashed. But he knew that if he gave in to that power, if he allowed Wukong's strength to fully take over, he risked losing himself and everything he had worked so hard to protect. But as the flames closed in, something within Naruto snapped. The desire to protect his friends, his life, and his future overwhelmed his fear. He couldn't hold back any longer. With a shout, Naruto allowed the power of Wukong to flood through him, embracing the transformation that he had resisted. The Rui Jingu Bang pulsed with golden energy, and Naruto's body was enveloped in a brilliant light. His hair began to glow with a fiery golden hue, and his eyes changed, glowing a deep, intense blue with golden pupils. The loop of binding appeared around his head, radiating true power. The flames that had been consuming him were suddenly pushed back, dissipating as the aura of power around Naruto intensified. He now stood transformed, his presence commanding and formidable. The red boy's eyes widened in shock and disbelief. No, it can't be. You're not supposed to have this power. Naruto didn't respond with words. Instead, he raised the Rui Jingu Bang, the staff growing to an immense size in an instant. With a single swing, he sent a shockwave toward the red boy, the force of the attack shattering the ground beneath them and sending the red boy crashing back. The red boy groaned in pain, struggling to stand. His eyes burned with hatred, but there was also fear. He hadn't expected Naruto to be able to tap into Wukong's power so quickly, and the realization that he was still outmatched filled him with frustration. Naruto approached him slowly, his gaze steady, but not filled with the same hatred that burned in the red boy's eyes. I don't want to fight you, Naruto repeated, his voice calm but firm, but I won't let you destroy everything I care about. The red boy glared up at him, his hands clenched into fists. You think this changes anything? You think just because you can use that power, I'm going to back down? I'll never forgive you, Wukong, or whatever you call yourself now. Naruto sighed, lowering the Rui Jingu Bang slightly. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I know that what Wukong did to you was wrong, and I know that it will take time for things to change. But continuing this fight won't bring you the peace you're looking for. The red boy's expression twisted with rage and frustration. Peace? There's no peace for someone like me. The only thing that will satisfy me is your destruction." Naruto shook his head. "I won't let that happen." The red boy let out a roar of anger, summoning what little energy he had left to attack once more. But as he lunged at Naruto, something within him wavered. The sheer power radiating from Naruto, the control he had over the immense strength of Wukong, was enough to give even the red boy pause. At the last moment, the red boy hesitated, his attack faltering. He knew he couldn't win, not now, not like this. And the thought of losing to Wukong's reincarnation once more was too much to bear. With a snarl of frustration, the red boy stopped his attack, his fiery aura flickering and fading. He took a step back, his eyes still blazing with hatred, but now tempered by a cold, calculating determination. "This isn't over," the red boy spat, his voice seething with anger. "I'll be back, and next time, I won't hold anything back. I'll come at you with everything I've got, and I'll make sure you pay for what you did to me." Naruto remained silent, his transformed state slowly fading as he returned to his normal appearance. The Rui Jingu Bang shrank back to its original size, and Naruto rested it on his shoulder, his expression weary but resolute. "I'll be ready," Naruto said quietly. "But remember, there's always another way." The red boy's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing more. With a final glare, he turned and disappeared into the shadows, his form fading into the night. The tension in the air began to dissipate, but the weight of the encounter lingered. As the red boy vanished, Naruto stood alone on the empty street, the sounds of the night gradually returning to normal. He let out a long breath, the adrenaline slowly leaving his body as he tried to process what had just happened. "You handled that well," Wukong said, his voice echoing in Naruto's mind. "But don't let your guard down. The past has a way of catching up with you when you least expect it." Naruto sighed, the weight of Wukong's words pressing down on him. "I'll be ready," he said, though a part of him wasn't entirely sure what that meant. As Naruto continued his walk home, his mind raced with questions. Who else from Wukong's past might come looking for him? What other challenges lay ahead? And how would he navigate the fine line between his past and his future? Naruto woke up with a start, his body still tense from the events of the previous night. The confrontation with the red boy lingered in his mind, the boy's words echoing ominously. "This isn't over. I'll be back at full power." As the morning light filtered through his window, Naruto sat up in bed, his muscles sore and his mind heavy. The peaceful life he had once known felt distant, like a fleeting memory replaced by the constant threat of danger. He couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was watching him, waiting for the next opportunity to strike. Naruto swung his legs over the edge of the bed and stared at his hands, remembering the surge of power he had unleashed the night before. The transformation, the power of Wukong, it had felt both exhilarating and terrifying. He had barely scratched the surface of what that power could do, but he knew it wasn't something he could take lightly. "Always be ready," Wukong's voice echoed in his mind, calm but firm. "You don't know who or what might come for you next. Keep your guard up, and don't let fear control you." Naruto let out a deep breath and nodded to himself. He wasn't just Naruto Uzumaki anymore. He was the reincarnation of Son Wukong, the Monkey King. And that meant that enemies from the past, enemies like the Red Boy, would continue to hunt him down. He couldn't afford to relax, not even for a moment. He stood and made his way to the bathroom, splashing cold water on his face to clear his mind. Today was another day at school, but it felt different now, like the normalcy he had once known was slipping away. The walls of Kuo Academy didn't feel as safe anymore, not with everything happening in the supernatural world around him. Naruto quickly dressed in his school uniform but hesitated before heading out the door. His hand instinctively reached for the Rui Jingu Bang, his trusty staff, which had returned to its normal size after the battle. It was too large to carry around in public, but the thought of leaving it behind made him uneasy. He had felt the weight of it in his hands, the power it contained, and he wasn't sure if he could face what was coming without it. As he stared at the staff, Wukong's voice spoke again in his mind. "Why are you carrying it like a walking stick, kid? Shrink it down and keep it somewhere you can reach anytime." Naruto blinked, surprised at the suggestion. "Shrink it down?" Wukong chuckled, the sound resonating with ancient wisdom and mischief. "The Rui Jingu Bang is a part of you now. You don't need to lug it around like a big stick. Just shrink it down and keep it somewhere convenient. Like I used to." Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Convenient? Like where?" Wukong's voice took on a playful tone. "In your ear. Small enough to fit, but always there when you need it. Trust me, it's battle-ready in an instant." Naruto wasn't entirely sure how he felt about keeping a magical staff in his ear, but the logic behind it was undeniable. He needed to be ready for anything, and the idea of having the staff always within reach was appealing. He focused on the Rui Jingu Bang, recalling its ability to change size at will. With a deep breath, Naruto visualized the staff shrinking, its weight lightening in his hand. Slowly, the once massive weapon began to shrink, becoming thinner, smaller, until it was no larger than a needle. Amazed at how effortlessly the staff transformed, Naruto held the tiny version of the Rui Jingu Bang between his fingers. Wukong's voice encouraged him. Now, just tuck it into your ear. It'll sit there quietly until you need it. No one will even know it's there. Naruto hesitated for a moment, still unsure about sticking his weapon into his ear, but he trusted Wukong's advice. With a quick motion, he carefully placed the miniature Rui Jingu Bang into his right ear. To his surprise, it fit perfectly, and he didn't feel its presence at all. It was as though the staff had vanished, hidden in plain sight, but ready to be called upon at a moment's notice. Naruto grinned, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. He could now walk around without worrying about being caught off guard. He was armed, even if no one else could see it. "Thanks, Wukong," Naruto muttered under his breath as he grabbed his school bag and headed out the door. "This actually makes me feel a little better." Wukong's laughter echoed in his mind. "You'll get used to it. Just remember, don't hesitate to use it when the time comes. You've got a lot of power, don't let fear keep you from using it." As Naruto made his way to school, the usual sights and sounds of Kuo Town seemed distant. His senses were heightened, his body tense, ready to react at any moment. Even the calm, ordinary streets felt like they were hiding potential threats. Every shadow, every passing stranger, seemed like they could be an enemy in disguise. It wasn't paranoia. Naruto knew that with the Red Boy's warning still fresh in his mind, he had to be prepared. He had crossed paths with someone from Wukong's past, and it was only a matter of time before more enemies found him. The supernatural world had its eyes on him, and the title of Monkey King was not something that came without consequences. As he approached Kuo Academy, the familiar sight of students walking through the gates, chatting with friends, and going about their day reminded him of how much had changed for him. While everyone else continued living their normal lives, Naruto was constantly looking over his shoulder, waiting for the next attack. He sighed as he stepped through the school gates, trying to calm himself down. He couldn't afford to be on edge all the time. He still had a life to live, and school wasn't going to wait for him to figure everything out. As he walked the halls of Kuo Academy, his usual carefree stride replaced by a subtle tension. Something wasn't right, and he could feel it in the air. The whole morning had felt off, and now, as the school day edged toward lunch break, that unsettling feeling had only grown stronger. Issei, normally loud and constantly talking about something, or another usually about Rias or girls, was nowhere to be found. Naruto had checked their classroom, the courtyard, even the rooftop, but there was no sign of his pervy friend. Rias and the rest of her peerage were also missing. He hadn't seen Kiba, Kaneko, or Akino since they all arrived at school. Normally, Rias would have at least acknowledged his presence with a knowing glance. But today, nothing. It was like they had all vanished without a trace. Where the hell did they all go? Naruto muttered under his breath as he navigated through the busy hallways, students rushing toward the cafeteria. The absence of his friends left him uneasy. It wasn't like Rias or Issei to disappear without a word. He had hoped to get more insight into last night's events, but with everyone missing, his mind was filled with even more questions. Were they avoiding him, or was something bigger going on that he wasn't aware of? As the lunch bell rang, Naruto's thoughts drifted to another possibility. If Rias and her peerage were nowhere to be found, perhaps Sona Citri might have answers. Sona was someone who always had her finger on the pulse of what was happening at Kuo Academy and in the supernatural world. Maybe she knew where Rias and the others had gone. Nodding to himself, Naruto decided to pay Sona a visit during lunch break. He made his way toward the student council room, hoping to find some answers. The student council room was a world away from the chaotic energy of the school hallways. As Naruto approached, he could hear the faint sound of papers shuffling and the steady click of a pen. Everything about the room seemed orderly and precise, a stark contrast to the unpredictability of his own life. Naruto knocked on the door and waited for a response. After a brief pause, a familiar voice called out, "Enter." Naruto stepped inside, finding Sona sitting at her desk, reviewing a stack of documents. Her ever-present, composed demeanor gave off an air of authority. Beside her stood Tsubaki Shinra, Sona's queen and loyal vice president of the student council. Sona looked up from her work, adjusting her glasses as she eyed Naruto curiously. "Naruto Uzumaki," she said in her usual calm, measured tone. "What brings you here during lunch break? I assume this isn't just a casual visit." Naruto crossed his arms, not bothering to hide his concern. "Rias and her peerage are missing. Issei too. I haven't seen them all day, and it's starting to feel like something's up. I figured you might know what's going on." Sona's expression remained calm, though a flicker of understanding crossed her face. "I see. That explains why you've been wandering the school this morning. Naruto blinked in surprise. You knew I was looking for them? Sona gave a small nod. I keep an eye on things around here, Naruto. It's my duty as president of the student council, after all. She paused, then motioned for Tsubaki to leave them for a moment. Once the door closed behind Tsubaki, Sona turned back to Naruto, her expression more serious. Rias and her peerage are not missing, Naruto, Sona began, folding her hands in front of her on the desk. They were called away to deal with an urgent matter involving a stray exorcist. From what I understand, the exorcist attacked the Red Dragon Emperor Issei Hayudu. Naruto's stomach dropped at the mention of an attack. Issei was attacked? By an exorcist? Sona nodded. Yes. From the information I've gathered, the exorcist is a rogue, someone who has abandoned the church's authority and now acts on their own. This individual is extremely dangerous, known for targeting devils. Naruto's fist clenched. The idea of Issei being attacked didn't sit well with him, especially knowing how reckless his friend could be. What does that have to do with Rias? Sona's gaze hardened. Issei was trying to protect a human girl. From what I've heard, she's a nun that has a connected to the church and may have been working alongside the exorcist. Naruto's mind flashed back to the brief encounter he'd had with Asia, the soft-spoken nun who had gotten lost in town. She had seemed harmless, even kind. The fact that she was now caught up in a dangerous situation with a stray exorcist made Naruto's blood boil. Asia, the nun? She's in danger because of this exorcist? Naruto asked, his voice tense. Yes, Sona replied. Rias and her peerage are currently dealing with the situation. They've gone to confront the exorcist and ensure the girl's safety. Naruto let out a frustrated sigh, pacing the room for a moment before turning back to Sona. Why didn't anyone tell me? I could have helped. Sona's expression softened slightly, though her tone remained pragmatic. This situation escalated quickly, and Rias likely didn't want to risk dragging you into a battle with a rogue exorcist. You're not part of her peerage, Naruto, and while you've proven yourself strong, Rias may have wanted to avoid putting you in unnecessary danger. Naruto clenched his fists, the frustration building inside him. He wasn't some helpless bystander, and he hated the idea of his friends fighting without him. But at the same time, he understood Rias's protective nature. She tended to take responsibility for her peerage, and even though Naruto wasn't officially a member, she probably saw him as part of her circle. Unnecessary danger, huh? Naruto muttered, shaking his head. I get it, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. Sona stood, moving around her desk to face Naruto directly. I'm not saying you should sit idly by. Rias values your strength, Naruto, but this battle might not have been the right time for you to get involved. She likely didn't want to expose you to the church's dealings unnecessarily. Naruto met her gaze, a determined fire burning in his eyes. I don't care about the church's problems. Issei and Rias are my friends. If they're in danger, I want to help. Sona sighed, her expression softening. I expected as much. You have a strong sense of loyalty, Naruto. That's something I admire about you. She paused, then added, but for now, we can only wait. Rias and her peerage are more than capable of handling a stray exorcist. If things escalate, you'll be the first to know. Naruto nodded, though he couldn't shake the feeling of restlessness in his gut. The idea of sitting around while Issei and Rias fought a rogue exorcist made his skin crawl, but he knew Sona was right. Rias's peerage had faced powerful enemies before, and they had come out on top. He just had to trust them. All right, Naruto finally said, exhaling a deep breath. But if something goes wrong, I'm jumping in. Sona gave a small nod of approval. Of course. I'll let you know the moment I hear anything more. Naruto turned to leave, but hesitated at the door. Thanks, Sona, for keeping me in the loop. Sona smiled slightly, her cool demeanor softening for just a moment. You're welcome. Just remember, not everything needs to be solved with force. Trust in Rias's judgment. Naruto nodded and exited the student council room, though his mind was still racing. He knew he'd have to trust Rias, but if that exorcist proved to be more dangerous than expected, he'd be ready. He wouldn't let anything happen to his friends, not while he had the power to help. As he walked through the school grounds, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The supernatural world around him was growing more dangerous by the day, and the battles ahead would only get more intense. But one thing was certain, no matter what came next, Naruto would stand by his friends. And if anyone thought they could hurt the people he cared about, they would soon learn that the Monkey King wasn't someone to be taken lightly. The final bell rang, signaling the end of another school day at Kuo Academy. Students filed out of classrooms, chattering about weekend plans and homework assignments, blissfully unaware of the supernatural conflicts happening just beneath the surface of their town. But for Naruto Uzumaki, the day had been anything but ordinary. His mind was a storm of worry for his friends, for Rias, and especially for Issei. The news from Sona that a stray exorcist had attacked Issei while trying to protect a nun weighed heavily on his thoughts. Now, with no further updates, Naruto was left to stew in frustration. As the day came to an end, Naruto decided to head to the dojo. He needed to burn off the stress, and a good martial arts workout seemed like the best way to clear his mind. The confrontation with the Red Boy still lingered in the back of his thoughts, but right now, his focus was on Rias and her peerage. Before heading to the dojo, Naruto found himself drawn to the school's rooftop. It had always been a quiet place where he could gather his thoughts, away from the constant buzz of students and teachers. The open sky helped him think clearly, and with everything going on, it was exactly what he needed. As he stood there, looking out at the city skyline, Naruto felt the familiar weight of the Rui Jingu bang hidden in his ear. The feeling was comforting, a reminder that he was never unarmed, never defenseless. Just as he was about to leave, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed up the stairs behind him. Naruto turned, only to see Sadi Jinchuru, Sona Citri's pawn, rushing toward him, his face flushed from running. "Naruto!" Saji called out. His breath labored as he reached the rooftop. "Wait up. I've got a message for you." Naruto raised an eyebrow, feeling his stomach tighten with unease. Saji didn't look like the type to rush unless something serious was happening. "What's up?" Naruto asked, crossing his arms. "You don't look like you're here just to chat." Saji took a deep breath, standing up straight as he delivered the message. "Sona sent me. She told me to let you know that there's more going on than we initially thought. Apparently, the fallen angels are involved with the church in this mess." Naruto's heart skipped a beat, his stomach dropping at the mention of fallen angels. "The fallen angels? Are you sure?" Saji nodded, his face serious. "Yeah, Sona got word just a little while ago. It looks like the stray exorcist isn't working alone. He's got connections with the fallen angels, and they've been stirring up trouble in the area, especially around the church." Naruto felt a wave of anger surge through him. The fallen angels. He had encountered one before Danasik, the one who had attacked Issei and tried to kill him. The thought of them being involved again, putting his friends in danger, made his blood boil. "Why are they working with the church?" Naruto asked, his voice tight with frustration. "What do they want?" Saji shook his head. "We're not sure yet, but Sona thinks it might be part of a bigger plot. The church and the fallen angels have always had complicated dealings, but this seems different. It's not just about territory or old grudges, it's about something else, something bigger." Naruto clenched his fists, feeling the Rui Jingu bang pulsing faintly in his ear, as if sensing his rising emotions. "Does Rias know about this?" Saji hesitated. "I don't think so. She and her peerage were already heading to deal with the stray exorcist when Sona got the information. We haven't been able to contact her yet." Naruto let out a frustrated breath, his mind racing. "Great, so she's walking right into a trap, and she doesn't even know it." Saji's expression mirrored Naruto's worry. "Sona didn't want to risk alarming you, but she figured you'd want to know. And since you're not exactly a part of her peerage, it's up to you how you handle this." Naruto felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. Rias, Issei, and the rest of the peerage were heading into a dangerous situation without knowing the full scope of what they were up against. And now, with fallen angels involved, things were bound to get even more complicated and deadly. He knew he couldn't just sit by and wait. If the fallen angels were involved, they would stop at nothing to get what they wanted, and that meant Rias and Issei were in even greater danger than before. Naruto turned Saji, his mind already made up. "Thanks, Saji. Tell Sona I appreciate her help. I'm going to the church." Saji looked hesitant for a moment. "Are you sure? You'll be walking into enemy territory. The church, fallen angels, stray exorcists, it's not going to be a simple fight." Naruto's eyes flashed with determination. "I've never run from a fight before, and I'm not starting now. If the fallen angels are involved, then I'm not going to let them hurt my friends." Saji sighed, though there was a hint of admiration in his expression. "You're as reckless as Issei. You know that?" Naruto smirked. "Maybe, but I'm also not going to let the people I care about fight alone." He took one last glance at Saji before his thoughts back to the church, situated on the opposite side of town. It would take time to reach it, and he knew he didn't have the luxury of waiting. Every second counted. "How the hell am I supposed to get to the church in time?" Naruto muttered under his breath. His frustration was mounting. It wasn't like he had some sort of transportation ready to go, and running across town would take too long. That's when Wukong's voice rang out in Naruto's mind, full of amusement. "Heh, you're thinking like a mortal, Naruto. That's no problem for the Monkey King. You forget, you're the great sage, equal to heaven. It's time you started acting like it." Naruto frowned. "What's that supposed to mean? You expect me to just run there?" Wukong let out a laugh, a mixture of amusement and mischief. Run? No, no. We don't just run. You've got the power of Wukong now, and that means you've got more than just a fancy staff at your disposal. Trust me on this. Naruto raised an eyebrow, skeptical. So, what? You're saying I should just magically know how to fly or something? Wukong's voice grew a little more serious, but still playful. Close. I want you to run and jump off the building. Naruto's eyes widened in disbelief. Yeah, right. Are you trying to kill me? I'll die if I do that. Wukong's laughter boomed in his mind. You won't die. You might feel it in this form, but trust me, you'll be fine. You're more durable than you think, and besides, I've got something special in mind for you. Trust me, Naruto. Naruto looked down from the rooftop, his heart racing at the thought of jumping off a multi-story building. He wasn't sure what Wukong was getting at, but he didn't have any other options. Time was running out, and he needed to get to the church. Well, Naruto muttered, it's not like I've got any other way to get there faster. He took a few steps backward, readying himself. The wind whipped around him, adding to the tension. Saji, who had been watching him with growing concern, finally spoke up. Naruto? What are you doing? Naruto smirked, his nerves creeping into his voice. Just give me some space, all right? Saji blinked, clearly confused but taking a few steps back. Wait, you're not seriously thinking about… Before Saji could finish, Naruto sprinted toward the edge of the rooftop. His heart pounded in his chest as he reached the fence, and without hesitating, he launched himself over it, soaring into the air. For a split second, there was only the rush of wind in Naruto's ears, and then nothing. He was falling. The ground below him seemed to rush up at him faster than he'd anticipated. Wukong, I swear, if this doesn't work… Naruto muttered under his breath, bracing for the worst. But just as Naruto expected to feel the impact of the fall, something else happened. He felt the air around him shift, and a strange sensation enveloped him. He wasn't falling anymore. He was hovering. Naruto looked down, his eyes widening in shock. He was riding a cloud. Saji, who had rushed to the edge of the rooftop in sheer panic, expected to see Naruto splattered on the ground below. But when he reached the fence and looked down, his eyes nearly bulged out of his head. There, floating effortlessly in the air, was Naruto riding what looked like a golden cloud. What the hell? Saji stammered, gripping the fence as he watched Naruto hovering above the school grounds. Am I seeing this right? Is he riding a cloud? Naruto, still in shock himself, couldn't help but grin as he adjusted his balance on the fluffy golden surface beneath him. The cloud was soft, yet solid enough to support his weight perfectly. It responded to his every thought, gently moving in whichever direction he willed it. Wukong's voice rang out in Naruto's mind, clearly pleased with himself. That, my friend, is the somersault or flying nimbus. One of my best tricks. You should have seen the look on your face, huh? Now, how about you stop wasting time and head to the church? You've got a long way to go, but Nimbus here can handle it. Naruto blinked, still processing what had just happened. Flying Nimbus. I thought that was just a myth. Wukong's voice brimmed with pride. Oh, it's no myth. The great sage, equal to heaven, doesn't walk everywhere, you know. Flying Nimbus will take you anywhere you need to go, fast. Now, stop gawking and get moving. Naruto grinned, feeling the rush of excitement as he leaned forward slightly, willing the Nimbus to move. The cloud responded instantly, shooting forward with a burst of speed. The wind whipped through Naruto's hair as he soared high above the rooftops of Kuo Town, the ground blurring beneath him. It was exhilarating, almost like flying. The speed, the control, it was nothing like he'd ever experienced before. He could feel the power of Wukong coursing through him, the connection to the Monkey King's legendary abilities becoming clearer with each passing moment. Not bad, huh? Wukong's voice teased. Now, let's get to that church and show those fallen angels what happens when they mess with the Monkey King's friends. Naruto's grin widened as the Nimbus picked up speed, cutting through the sky like a golden comet. The church was on the other side of town, but with the flying Nimbus, he would be there in no time. He glanced back at Kuo Academy, where Saji was still standing on the rooftop, staring after him in disbelief. Naruto couldn't help but chuckle at the look on his face. Thanks, Saji. I'll take it from here. Naruto called out as the Nimbus shot forward, leaving the school and Saji's stunned expression far behind. Naruto flew over Kuo Town. The landscape below him rushed by in a blur. The city looked so different from up here, so small, so distant. But Naruto's mind was laser-focused on one destination, the church. His friends were in danger, and now, more than ever, he needed to be there. The stray exorcist, the fallen angels, whatever they were planning, Naruto wasn't going to let them succeed. He had come too far, gained too much strength, to let anything happen to the people he cared about. The wind whipped around him as the flying nimbus accelerated even faster, soaring through the clouds and cutting across town with incredible speed. Naruto could feel the power of the nimbus responding to his every thought, every urge to move faster. Wukong's voice echoed in his mind, as calm as ever. "You're getting the hang of it, kid. Just remember speed's important, but so is control. Keep your focus." Naruto nodded, his grip tightening on the edges of the cloud as he pushed it to go even faster. The church was growing closer now, its tall, ominous spires rising into view in the distance. Naruto's heart raced as he prepared for what lay ahead. He knew this wasn't going to be a simple rescue mission. The fallen angels, the exorcist, Asia, they were all caught in a dangerous game. And Naruto wasn't sure how it would all play out. But one thing was certain. He wasn't going to let his friends fight alone. As the church loomed closer, Naruto steeled himself for the battle to come. Time to show them what the great sage can do. The night air crackled with energy as Rias and Akino continued their fight against the fallen angel duo outside the church. The sounds of magic and steel clashing against dark, corrupt power echoed through the air as sparks flew and deadly beams of light were exchanged. Rias, her crimson hair flowing like a battle flag behind her, fought with fierce determination, her magic flaring with raw power. Beside her, Akino's lightning danced across the battlefield, her usual playful smile replaced by a focused intensity. The fallen angels were strong, but they had underestimated Rias Grimory's resolve and her anger. "You devils are all the same," one of the fallen sneered, his voice dripping with venom. "Your servants are nothing but pawns, just like the red dragon. Weak, pathetic." At the mention of Issei, a wave of fury surged through Rias. Her eyes blazed with an intensity that sent chills down the spines of even her enemies. "Insult my servants again, and I'll show you exactly why you should fear the House of Grimory," she hissed. With a powerful burst of her demonic energy, Rias blasted one of the fallen angels into oblivion, her rage fueling her strength. Akino, not one to be outdone, sent a bolt of crackling lightning that reduced the second to ash. Panting slightly, Rias stood amidst the remnants of the battle, her magic still humming in the air around her. Akino landed gracefully beside her, her usual smile returning, though her eyes were sharp with focus. "Are you all right, Rias?" Akino asked, her voice calm despite the fierce battle they had just fought. Rias nodded, though her mind was already elsewhere. "Yes, but Issei, he's inside the church. We need to." Before she could finish, a blur of movement caught her eye. Naruto had arrived. Rias turned in surprise as Naruto, riding the flying nimbus, soared in at full speed. His expression was tense, his usual carefree demeanor replaced by urgency and determination. "Naruto," Rias called out as he landed beside her. "You made it." Naruto nodded, his gaze already focused on the church. "Issei's inside, right?" Rias hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yes. He's fighting to protect a nun named Asia. But I'm afraid he might be too late." Naruto's heart clenched. He didn't have time to ask any more questions. Without a word, he sprinted toward the church, using the nimbus to give him a burst of speed. As he approached the building, he didn't hesitate. He jumped and crashed through the nearest window, landing in a roll inside the church. The scene inside the church was nothing short of chaos. Shards of stained glass littered the ground, and the faint glow of magic still lingered in the air. Kiba and Kaneko stood amidst the remains of the rogue exorcists they had just defeated. But what drew Naruto's eyes wasn't the battle, it was Issei, kneeling in the center of the room, clutching something to his chest. "Asia." Naruto's eyes widened as he saw the lifeless form of the nun, her body limp in Issei's arms. The boosted gear on Issei's arm glowed faintly with the green light, but there was no mistaking the grief in his eyes. Issei's face was pale, tears streaming down his cheeks as he held Asia, his voice barely a whisper. I was too late. She's gone." Issei's voice was hoarse, broken by sobs. "I couldn't save her. I failed." Naruto knelt beside his friend, placing a hand on Issei's shoulder. His heart ached for him. "Issei, it's not your fault. You did everything you could." Issei shook his head, his tears falling onto Asia's lifeless form. "No, she's dead because of me. If I had been stronger." Wukong's voice echoed in Naruto's mind, interrupting his thoughts. Well. If it isn't Drake, the Red Dragon Emperor. It's been a long time since I last saw that old dragon." Naruto blinked, caught off guard by Wukong's sudden comment. "Wait, you know Drake?" he muttered quietly to himself. Wukong chuckled. "Yeah, I taught him a lesson once when he and that white dragon of his were tearing things up near my mountain. Dragons can be so full of themselves sometimes." Naruto let out a quiet sigh, his attention shifting back to the scene in front of him. This wasn't the time for stories. He looked at Issei, his heart heavy. He had missed the fight, and Asia was gone. The sadness in the air was palpable. But Naruto's thoughts were interrupted by a presence he hadn't noticed before. Rainier, the fallen angel who had overseen the attack, stood at the far end of the church, her eyes wide with fear as she watched the scene unfold. She had seen the destruction wrought by Issei's boosted gear, the defeat of her rogue exorcists, and now, she saw him. The boy who had beaten Donasek. The boy who was said to be the reincarnation of Sun Wukong, the legendary Monkey King. Rainier's blood ran cold. Her heart pounded in her chest as she desperately tried to think of a way out. She hadn't expected this. She thought she could break Issei, toy with him, but now she was looking at the one person she had been told to avoid at all costs. Naruto Uzumaki, the new god reincarnated Sun Wukong. Panic surged through her. She couldn't fight him. Not like this. Not after everything that had gone wrong. In a last, desperate attempt to save herself, Rainier shamelessly transformed, her form shifting back into the appearance of Yuma, the girl she had pretended to be when she first met Issei. Her face was a mask of fear and pleading as she turned toward Issei. "Issei, please, don't kill me," she cried, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean for things to go this far. I was only following orders. I'll leave. I'll disappear forever. Just spare me." But Issei wasn't fooled. His eyes, still filled with tears, hardened as he looked at the woman who had tricked him, who had killed Asia in cold blood. Rainier's pleas fell on deaf ears. Rias and Aquino arrived in the room just as Rainier begged for her life, and Rias's eyes darkened with rage. She stepped forward, her hand glowing with demonic power. "You deserve no mercy," Rias said coldly, ready to end the fallen angel herself. But before she could act, Naruto stepped forward, placing a hand on Rias's arm. She looked at him in surprise, her fury briefly tempered by his presence. "Let me handle this," Naruto said, his voice calm but filled with a quiet intensity. "This all started because of her. It's only right that I end it." Rias hesitated for a moment, then nodded, stepping back to let Naruto take the lead. Naruto turned to Rainier, his blue eyes locking onto her trembling form. His hand reached up to his ear, and with a flick of his fingers, the Rui Jingu Bang, the staff of Sun Wukong, appeared in his hand, growing to its full size. Rainier's eyes widened in terror as she saw the staff. She knew what it meant. She had heard the stories. This was the end. "No, please," she whimpered, her voice barely audible. Naruto's expression didn't waver. "This is for everything you've done, for the pain you've caused, for Asia." With a swift, decisive movement, Naruto swung the Rui Jingu Bang. The strike was clean, and with it, Rainier's form crumbled, her body dissipating into nothingness. Silence fell over the church. Naruto stood there for a moment, his grip on the staff tightening before he let out a long breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He had done what needed to be done, but there was no satisfaction in it, only a sense of grim resolution. Issei, still kneeling beside Asia's body, looked up at Naruto, tears still streaming down his face. "Thank you, Naruto." Naruto nodded, his heart heavy. "We'll find a way to honor her, Issei. You did everything you could." The weight of the moment pressed down on everyone, especially Issei. He stared at Asia's pale face, his heart heavy with guilt and sorrow. Tears still shimmered in his eyes, and despite Naruto's words of reassurance, Issei couldn't shake the feeling that he had failed her. He had tried so hard to save her, but in the end, Asia had given her life to protect him. "She didn't deserve this," Issei muttered, his voice thick with emotion. "She was too kind, too good. And she's gone because of me?" Naruto placed a hand on Issei's shoulder, trying to offer him comfort. "It's not your fault, Issei. You did everything you could." But the sadness in the air remained, thick and heavy, weighing down on everyone in the room. Rias watched the scene unfold with a look of deep thought on her face. She knew how much Asia had meant to Issei, how much her loss was affecting him. But more than that, Rias also felt a strange sense of responsibility toward Asia. The young nun had been drawn into this supernatural world without fully understanding the dangers that came with it. And now, she had paid the ultimate price. But perhaps it wasn't too late. A spark of determination flashed in Rias's eyes as she stepped forward, her voice cutting through the silence. "I can bring her back," Rias said, her tone firm yet soft. Issei's head snapped up, his tear-filled eyes widening in disbelief. What? What do you mean? How can you bring her back?" Naruto turned to Rias, a mix of curiosity and hope in his eyes. "Rias, are you saying what I think you're saying?" Rias gave a small nod, her gaze steady as she looked at Issei and Naruto. "Yes, I can make her one of my servants, a devil, like the rest of my peerage. It's not an easy decision, but I believe Asia deserves a second chance at life. Issei blinked, trying to process what Rias was saying. You mean, you can make her a devil? You can save her? Rias took a deep breath. Yes, I can reincarnate her as one of my servants. By using one of the evil pieces from my set, I can bring her back to life, though she will no longer be human. She will be a devil, like us. Naruto glanced at Asia's lifeless form and then back at Rias. He knew how significant this decision was, both for Rias and for Asia. Being reincarnated as a devil meant leaving behind her human life, her faith, and everything she had known as a nun. But at the same time, it would give her a chance to live again, to continue walking a new path. Do you think Asia would want that? Naruto asked, his voice gentle but serious. Rias looked down at Asia, her expression softening. I believe so. She was selfless and kind, but she was also caught in a world she didn't fully understand. Becoming a devil would give her the strength to protect herself and to continue being with those she cares about. Issei looked torn, his emotions warring inside him. She always wanted to help people. She never wanted to hurt anyone. I don't know if she'd want this. Rias knelt beside Issei, her gaze warm yet resolute. It's not an easy choice, Issei, but I think Asia has more to offer this world. She's strong, even if she doesn't realize it. With her sacred gear, she has the potential to do great things, and I want to give her that chance. Issei stared at Asia's face, his heart pounding. The thought of bringing her back, of having her in his life again, was overwhelming. But the idea of her becoming a devil, of leaving her human life behind, it was a difficult choice. He wasn't sure if he had the right to make that decision for her. But then Naruto's voice broke through his thoughts. Issei, Naruto said softly, if Asia were here right now, what do you think she would say? I think she'd want to stay with us. She was willing to sacrifice everything to protect you. And if this is the only way to give her a second chance, then I think she'd be okay with it. Issei looked at Naruto, the weight of the decision pressing on him. But deep down, he knew Naruto was right. Asia had chosen to stand by him, even at the cost of her own life. And now, if there was a chance to give her another life, he couldn't refuse it. Issei wiped the tears from his eyes and gave a small nod. Do it. Please, Rias, bring her back. Rias nodded, her expression resolute as she stood and extended her hand. From the air, a red, glowing piece appeared, a bishop from her set of evil pieces. The piece radiated with power as it hovered above Rias's hand. I'll use my bishop piece, Rias explained, her voice steady as she looked down at Asia's body. Asia's sacred gear, Twilight Healing, is too valuable to be lost. This will allow her to retain her power, and she'll be able to use her healing abilities to help others as a devil. Naruto and Issei watched in silence as Rias knelt beside Asia's body once more, her eyes glowing with magic as she carefully placed the bishop piece on Asia's chest. A soft, red light began to envelop Asia's form, shimmering like a protective aura. The light grew brighter and brighter, surrounding Asia completely until her body seemed to glow with life. Slowly, the bishop piece sank into her chest, disappearing as the magic took hold. Rias closed her eyes, focusing her power as she called upon the magic of the evil pieces. The air around them hummed with energy, and Naruto could feel the shift in the atmosphere as Rias performed the ritual. A few tense moments passed before the red light began to fade, leaving behind the still form of Asia. The church was quiet once again, the magic settling. And then, Asia's fingers twitched. Issei gasped, his eyes wide with hope as he watched her. Asia? Slowly, Asia's eyes fluttered open, her emerald green gaze dazed and unfocused. She blinked a few times before her eyes settled on Issei, who was still kneeling beside her, his heart racing with anticipation. Issei? She whispered weakly, her voice soft but alive. Issei's heart nearly stopped. Asia, you're back. Naruto smiled, relief washing over him as he saw Asia's eyes open. She was alive. Rias had done it. Rias and Akino exchanged relieved glances, happy that the ritual had succeeded. Asia, still confused, slowly sat up with Issei's help. She looked around the church, her memories of the events before her death slowly returning. What happened? I remember. Rainier, and then Issei hugged her tightly, tears streaming down his face once more, but this time they were tears of joy. You're okay now, Asia. Rias brought you back. You're one of us now, a devil. Asia blinked, her expression one of surprise but also gratitude. I'm a devil? Rias knelt beside her, her voice gentle. Yes, Asia. You've been reincarnated as a devil in my peerage. You're my new bishop. You still have your sacred gear, your healing powers. But now, you're stronger. You'll be able to protect yourself. Asia looked down at her hands, still trying to process everything. It was a lot to take in, but she felt alive. and she was with her friends. She looked up at Issei and Naruto, both of whom were smiling at her with relief. "Thank you," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "Thank you for giving me a second chance." Naruto grinned and patted her on the shoulder. "You've got nothing to thank us for. We're just glad to have you back, Asia." Issei smiled through his tears, nodding in agreement. "Yeah, we're just happy you're here with us." Ria stood and offered Asia a warm smile. "Welcome to the Gremory family, Asia." Asia smiled back, her heart swelling with gratitude and happiness. She didn't fully understand what her new life as a devil would entail, but she knew one thing for certain. She was surrounded by people who cared for her. And for now, that was enough. This was part 1. For part 2, check out the description box or you can click on this video, and I will see you all there.